Thank you very
present.
much. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair of the NCOP and the Presidium, His Excellency President Ramaphosa, members of the NCOP and delegates, ministers, deputy ministers, premiers and MECs, distinguished guests, good afternoon. Honorable Chairperson, we do really appreciate your foresight for convening us to participate in this important debate. The President has covered a lot of ground on the work that government is doing to fight poverty and the high cost of living in our country. I will focus on what we are doing in the Eastern Cape to support the affects mainly women and children in our province, with cases of malnutrition emerging in some hotspots areas. We are responding to such cases holistically through a basket of programs and intervention to protect women and children. Over 80% of our budget is allocated to social transformation cluster to fight poverty and high cost of living. For instance, honorable members, government spend more than 30 billion every year to 2.9 million people of our province who are beneficiaries of social security grants. In that, we are pushing back the frontiers of poverty. We've made intervention at schools level by providing 2 meals a day to 1.5 million learners through the school nutrition program. That is a serious intervention of fighting poverty, Honorable Chair. We transport more than 100,000 learners to school at no cost to parents. In 2024 alone, Honorable Chair, our government has paid 2.8 billion to NSFAS, benefiting more than 80,000 students in our universities, all those students from Eastern Cape. In the same period, NSFAS paid 506 million, benefiting 24,000 students in TVET colleges. We subsidize education to reduce the financial burden of education on parents and families. As President has said, we educate a child, we are transforming the household. But more importantly, we believe that the youth we are educating will lift the families out of poverty. The provision of primary health care services closer to where our people reside is also reducing the burden of high cost of living because they are no longer traveling to urban centers to access hospitals. The 7th administration is continuing on the work that has been started in the 6th administration of adding more hospitals in our rural areas. Currently building Bambisane Hospital in Lusikisiki at 600 million, Zitulele Hospital in Mkanduli, Xhosa Boundaries at 1 billion, and Madwaleni Hospital in Xhosa at 560 million. We are calling for the full implementation, Mr. President, of the Bella Bill and NHI, as these policies will contribute to reducing costs of living for majority of citizens and better access to education and health services. The challenge of poverty requires us to also create jobs through labor-intensive programs. Mr. President, we are repurposing EPWP, the Presidential Youth Employment Initiative, and the labor activation programs to give our people meaningful jobs, particularly young people. Working with our SETAs and national government departments, we are rolling out skills revolution to empower more than 20,000 young people with trade skills such as electricians, plumbers, carpenters, and bricklayers, painters, welders, fitters, and tanners. I know 10 years ago, no one knew that South Africa will be in demand of a skill called turbine skills. But because of renewable energy that we're having, and I must tell you, Mr. President, that we are almost exporting that skill now. Technicians that are working around Eastern Cape on those wind farms are being poached by Australia, getting out of the province for that particular purpose. We're developing that skill quite seriously because as a province, we are becoming a hub in terms of those wind farms with companies like Sosol making off-take agreements. We were launching another 1.8 billion in Nyaga, Bedford, a month ago. We're working on a 9 billion new one with also Sosol making an off-take agreement for those electrons. But I've told Sosol, Mr. President, that people of Eastern Cape can no longer follow what is endowed to them or their natural resources to Gauteng or elsewhere. We need development where our people are. That's the meaning of rural development. Having said all that, Honorable Chair, must highlight that we do not want it to be a welfare state in the Eastern Cape. Our long-term vision to deal with poverty and high cost of living is premised on building an inclusive economy that does not benefit privileged few, but all our people, particularly women, youth, and people with disabilities. To achieve this vision, we are pursuing 5 growth frontiers that are critical for economic growth, job creation, which are manufacturing, agriculture, oceans economy, tourism, and digital economy. In Springbok terms, Mr. President, we call these frontiers the bomb squad of our economic growth. At micro level, we are supporting and affirming our SMME to grow and create more jobs for locals. Honorable Chair and honorable members, we welcome the President's announcement on the issues of spaza shops, as President has quite articulated it here. At a macro level, we need agility of our government in funding and implementation of the game-changing projects in our province. Projects like Eastern Cape Seaport, Mzimvubu Dam, N2 Highway, where we do have those 2 bridges, Msikaba and Mtendu, small harbor developments, renewable energy initiatives that I've just talked about earlier. These projects will transform the socio-economic landscape of our province and of our country. Eastern Cape, Mr. President, does have an unparalleled potential if you look at the growth of our country. Infrastructure projects such as the 2 mega bridges that I've talked about, Mtendu and Msikaba, are already improving lives of our people around the area of the Wild Coast. We need more of those. We are currently implementing multi-billion rands roads infrastructure in the Eastern Cape, Matatiel to Cedarville, Kokstad, it's a billion project, Maklesibeni, or Kwabakza to Maklesibeni, almost a billion project, Ngushwa to Makanda, almost a billion projects. There are so many of those projects. President Bisho to Komcha, almost a billion project. Eastern Cape is becoming a construction site. In terms of the road, yes, we're coming from a very low base. We've been having 90% of our roads being rural roads. Mr. President, I could have said a lot. I know time is not in the favor of me, but as I conclude, Mr. President, I must indicate that we are just coming from a trip with Minister Ramaphosa from Qatar. We've seen a lot, but we need the decisiveness of our government in terms of turnaround time to ensure things that we are talking about, we are planning, are implemented with speed. We're dealing with issues of extortion, farmers and construction mafia. We need state to protect the fiscus. That's why, Mr. President, we talk about soldiers camping along those sides. In conclusion, Mr. President, the time for rhetoric has passed. The country's priorities are clear. Reduce poverty, lower cost of living, and build inclusive economy. The Eastern Cape continues to work hard towards the attainment of these national goals. The time for Eastern Cape to thrive, Mr. President, is now. As the President Nelson Mandela once said, it always seems impossible until it is done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Premier. I'm now inviting Honorable Boshoff to take the podium. You've got 7 minutes.
Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Minister, Honourable President, Honourable members and fellow South Africans, good day. Today I stand here to make the case for prioritising efforts to reduce poverty and tackle the high cost of living. However, Honourable President, before we can discuss solutions, we must first face the hard truths of our current predicament. The truths rooted in decades of mismanagement, inefficiency, and corruption by your party. Under the ANC, promises of a better life for all have turned into a bitter pill for most South Africans to swallow. Poverty remains entrenched, and the rising cost of living is choking millions of households. If we are to chart a path forward, we must break free from the failures of the past and embrace a better way of governance, one rooted in accountability, clean government and tangible results. This can be realized with cooperation between the ANC and the DA under the newly established GNU. We need builders, Honourable President, and not breakers, to ensure that unity prevails, which will benefit all of our citizens. Unfortunately, the ANC's economic failures are well documented. The unemployment rate sits at a record high, with almost half of South Africans unable to find work. The government's policy, uncertainty, corruption, and red tape have driven away investors and stifled job creation. Honourable President, consider Eskom, which plunged the country into darkness in previous years while draining billions of rands from public coffers. Load shedding alone cost the economy over 1 billion rand a day, pushing prices higher and deepening poverty. And now NERSA, to which you alluded, will most likely allow Eskom to bleed citizens dry. With a proposed electricity hike of 40% in the coming 3 years, this, Honourable President, is totally unacceptable. If NERSA won't make the right decision, will you, Honourable President, in stepping forward, save South Africans from being plunged into deeper cycles of poverty and trying to dodge the curveballs thrown at them? Under the ANC, inequality has worsened as the rich get richer through corrupt deals and the poor are left to fend for themselves. The ANC has spent decades blaming everyone else, like global markets and even the weather, for their failures. But the truth is this: if governing were a test, the ANC would have failed. Not just failed, they would have copied the wrong answers and then blamed the teacher. Honourable Chair, in contrast, the DA offers a vision rooted in economic growth and empowerment. The DA has consistently championed policies that uplift the most vulnerable while creating an environment for economic growth. Let me outline why our focus should align with the vision and why it is the most effective way to address poverty and high cost of living. The cornerstone of reducing poverty lies in creating economic opportunities. The DA recognizes that poverty is tackled by ensuring people have access to jobs, skills, and tools to improve their livelihoods. Job creation is a central priority. This includes fostering an environment where businesses thrive by reducing bureaucratic red tape, investing in infrastructure, and attracting local and foreign investment. By fostering entrepreneurship and attracting investment, the DA has created opportunities for people to earn a living with dignity. Furthermore, the DA's emphasis on clean governance ensures that public money is spent on uplifting communities and not lining the pockets of the politically connected. Skills development is essential. By investing in education, technical training, and entrepreneurship programs, we will provide South Africans with the ability to escape the cycles of poverty. Under DA-led governments like those in the Western Cape, unemployment rates are significantly lower than the national average due to focused efforts on economic development. In the Western Cape, the unemployment rate dropped by 2.6%. You can heckle as you like, it's the truth. And now stands at 19.6% in comparison to the national rate of 32.9%. Honourable President, I urge you to rally behind a strategy that is not about handouts, but about giving people a hand up. A strategy rooted in dignity, opportunity, and fairness. Dependency, Honourable Chair, is most definitely not empowerment, and many communities remain trapped in cycles of poverty due to grants not being paired with economic opportunities or skills development. While social support is vital, long-term poverty alleviation requires economic inclusion and growth. The DA, however, is writing a new script, one of hope, empowerment, and real change. We don't offer band-aid solutions. We offer a vision for a thriving South Africa where poverty is reduced and the high cost of living is tackled head on. All of the above is contained in the DA's economic justice policy for those who are questioning this. In conclusion, Honourable Chair and Honourable President, I want to state that there is hope. The GNU ball is slowly rolling, so let's unite behind the builders to ensure we have a South Africa where everybody can prosper. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Boshoff. We are now, colleagues, moving to the next speaker, our Premier hailing from the province of Northwest, Honourable Mukhoshi. Please take the podium.
No, thank you very much, Chair of the NCOP, Honourable Refile Mtsweni-Tsipane, His Excellency President Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa, Honourable Deputy Chair Celeste Govender, the Chief Whip from different provinces, Honourable Leader of Government Business, President of SALGA, Honourable Premiers present here today, all members, good afternoon. Let me first start by appreciating the opportunity to be part of the annual address by the President and to participate in the debate. The problem of poverty, Chairperson, is not the concern of the poor people alone. It's a challenge facing all humanity for which we need to seek collective solutions to reduce and finally eradicate. An occasion such as today's debate is an opportune moment for us to garner our efforts to resolve and find solutions to challenges of poverty affecting our communities. We are gathered here not to remind our people that they are poor and hungry, but to find ways aimed at finding lasting solutions to address their socio-economic needs. We are not here to repeat the truth of how much we have changed their lives. We are here within the 30 years of the celebration of democracy to say to them, this is what you expected out of us. We wanted us to change your lives. You wanted to see change in your lives for a better and for you to afford basic needs. I want to quote what Amika Cabra once said, and I quote, "The people fight and accept the sacrifices demanded by the struggle in order to gain material advantages, to live better in peace, to benefit from progress and for the better of their children," unquote. Honorable members, we are here to answer the question posed many years ago by Professor Mohammed Yunus, a renowned Bangladesh economist, when delivering the 7th Nelson Mandela lecture, and I quote, "What good does the theory of economics do if it is not working for the people?" And I unquote. Chairperson, poverty unfortunately has a face. Unfortunately, it is gendered and is found in our spatial disparities. Poverty is a product of our past, a blemish to our present, and if we are not careful, it will be the reality of our future. The fight against poverty needs solutions that work, not theories that sound good. Chairperson, the Northwest is at least a 60% rural, and it accounts for the highest number of unemployed people in the country, representing half of our population. Our province is also endowed with vast natural resources, accounting for some of the largest deposits on critical minerals that sustain global economies. There is no reason, therefore, for the people of the Northwest to be poor. Mr. President, as we take over the reign of G20 leadership, We should not miss the historic opportunity to disrupt the hegemonic global economic order, to construct a just economic world order that will take the people of the Northwest along. The welfare of the people in the world should be placed at the top of the agenda during South Africa G2010. Honorable members, since the 2024 general elections, we have made enormous progress in creating opportunities for the people of the Northwest to address high unemployment and reduce high levels of poverty in our communities. We have recently revised our provincial growth and development strategy to map a developmental future for the province backed with a scientifically modeled economic scenarios and choices open to us to lift our people out of their current situation. We have adopted bold commitments to revive the vision of the National Development Plan to reduce the rate of poverty in the Northwest by half by the end of the 7th administration, which is 2030. The road ahead will be difficult, President, but we are prepared to stay on course and see to the full implementation of our interventions and the objectives we have set for ourselves. We are encouraged by the emerging confluence of positivity that has seen the province registering the highest number of jobs created in the latest quarterly labor force survey, with 69,000 jobs created. Don't mind to clap hands. Honorable members, 3 weeks ago, we opened a newly refurbished 200 million gold processing plant at Orkney in the city of Matlasane local municipality. This forms part of our 2 billion rand investment by China Africa Precious Metals, which will culminate in the creation of 4,000 jobs for local people. Honorable President, this investment follows our visit to China, which coincided with your state visit and meeting with His Excellency Xi Jinping. Today, as I speak here, the provincial members of the Executive Council are meeting a delegation from Henan province of China to explore investment opportunities in the province that will create jobs for our people and cushion poverty levels bedeviling our province. During the second quarter of the financial year, we created over 17,000 jobs for young people through our extended public works program. In addition to this, we advertised, unprecedentedly so, for the first time, over 240 funded vacant posts in the public service aimed at creating work opportunities for the vulnerable groups such as women, youth, and people living with disabilities. In creating socio-economic opportunities for Black African women, own enterprises, we spent close to 3 billion of our procurement spent on businesses that are owned by Black African women since 2024-25 financial year. Through the presidential stimulus package during the financial year under review, over 48 million rand has been allocated to the province to alleviate poverty through provision of vegetables, fruits, grains, broilers, and small stock agricultural produce. Honorable Chair, a further 280 million has been allocated to the Provincial Department of Agriculture and Rural Development to enhance and bolster food production to the benefit of the impoverished household in the next financial year. We are engaged in a number of interventions to fight poverty, unemployment, and inequalities. We are focused on making the Northwest a construction site. Our focus is on the public-private infrastructure projects where we want to maximize job opportunities and in particular to promote small, medium enterprise development. But at the same time, we've got an aggressive program in collaboration with NYDA, Skills Fund, Department of Labor, for artisanal programs for young people in our province. We are the first province, President, to introduce breakfast in our schools, where we've got 300 schools which are now providing breakfast, and there's no any other province that has done. Our people our children in our province who are on an NSP program, over 745,000 children are on an NSP program. In conclusion, Chairperson, it is important that we should indicate that we are transporting in the province, using our transport as an intervention for those children who are coming from disadvantaged communities in our schools. And therefore, I challenge this House to what was said at one particular point by the chair, who said, let us make South Africa a country in the world that will have what is called a poverty museum. Our
Honourable
children
Premier,
will go
please
and
wrap
say
up.
what it is to have and live under poverty. Let us make it happen. Ntime Umpengwana. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honourable Premier. We are now moving to the next speaker, Honourable Mokoena.
Honourable Chairperson, Mr. President, members of the House, fellow South Africans. Mr. President, people are no longer falling for your well-crafted speeches that promise the world yet deliver nothing. While you stand here speaking of dedicating efforts to reduce poverty and tackle high cost of living, people are not doing well out there. To reduce poverty and tackle this, you need to do much more. Mr. President, your administration has presided over a period of unprecedented economic stagnation, institutional decay, and rising despair. Today, more than 30.9% of South Africans are unemployed, a human tragedy affecting millions of households. Youth unemployment stands at a staggering 59.6%, leaving an entire generation without hope or opportunity. Poverty rates have scored with over 18.2 million, have soared so much that South Africans are now relying on social grants to survive. Families cannot afford basic necessities. Parents are skipping meals so that their children can eat, and communities are being crushed under the unbearable weight of economic hardship. Mr. President, the social relief grant was a great idea, but may I ask if your beloved pets at home could survive with just 370 rands a month, the amount your government deems sufficient for an adult to live in this country? And let us not forget that the same administration deems 1,417 per month as the poverty line, yet you expect people to live on a fraction of this. The stark disconnection between your administration and the realities faced by ordinary people is shocking and unacceptable. How can you speak of progress while millions are forced to make impossible choices, scratching your SASSA grants further than they could ever go, being forced to make impossible choices every day, choosing between keeping the lights on or commuting to work? Despite these grim realities, your administration claims progress. Let us example some facts. The GDP growth rate is stagnant at 0.6% for 2024, well below the sub-Saharan average of 3.4%. Inflation continues to hover at 6.3%, driven by the relentless rise of food and energy prices. The price of loaf of bread is now 20 rand, President, and petrol costs exceed 25 rand per litre in some regions. Eskom failures have slashed over 500 rand billion from the economy's annual due to load shedding, now rebranded, by the way, as load reduction. South Africa enjoyed 207 days of load shedding in 2023 alone, costing thousands of jobs and devastating businesses. Transnet, on the other hand, which is vital for our economy, has become a bottleneck with rail volumes plummeting by 21% in 2023. So even the most basic infrastructure has been left to crumble. Roads riddled with potholes, failing water system, inadequate healthcare facilities are daily reminders of the government's neglect. And let us be clear, South Africans did not vote for the so-called GNU, nor have they ever endorsed it. Helen Zille rightly called it out as a coalition of convenience, designed to shield your administration's incompetence. Truth of the matter is, this arrangement was more than a desperate ploy, was just a desperate ploy by the ANC to cling to power after suffering a humiliating loss at the election polls. The people handed you a break-up letter, but instead of bowing out with dignity, you chose to hang on like an unwelcome guest, scavenging the leftover of power. The ANC is in the ICU, and the prognosis is grim. The chief whip of the NCOP stood here earlier and said history will remember you kindly. I beg to differ. Your legacy will not be one of hope or progress, but of missed opportunities and a betrayal of the people's trust. History will not remember the words you delivered here today. Instead, it will remember the suffering, the job losses, the increase in crime, the blackouts, the potholes, the unforgivable water shortages. In all honesty, you will be remembered for presiding over the collapse of the ANC and for abandoning the people who trusted you to lead. But let us speak of hope. Hope that does not lie in your government, but in the MK party. The MK party is not just the official opposition. We are an official government in waiting, and we cannot wait. We are the custodians of the people's hopes and dreams, and priorities are clear. Job creation is one of our main mandates. Through industrialization and infrastructure investment, we will create 3 million jobs at least within the 5 years. We pledge ukubuyisa umhlaba owantshontshwa ngokuguqula uSection 25 we-Constitution. Sifeze lezi ithembiso nina nahluleka ukuyifeza mhla nithi abantu abanivotela. We will also have energy security. By restructuring ESCOM and diversifying energy resources, we will end load shedding in less or more 18 months after assuming office. Fellow South Africans, the MK Party invites you to join us on the 15th of December 2024 at Moses Mabhida Stadium as we commemorate our first year of life. It won't just be a celebration, it will be a call for action. It will be a reminder that we are unwavering in our fight for South Africa that works for everyone and not just a privileged few. Thank you.
We are now moving to the next speaker, which is Honorable Farmer.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable President, Chairperson, just as a side note, while I was sitting there, I received numerous pictures of Suris running down the street in Kaapfontein in Cape Town. Honorable Chairperson, Honorable President, and Honorable Members, poverty alleviation has been on everybody's agenda for a number of years now. Quite a lot was said, and equally quite a lot of promises were made with every election cycle. These promises were made by each and every politician who can get their hands on a mic or can get a platform to address our people, irrespective of the color of their T-shirt or party they represent. In the 2007 Polokwane Conference of the ANC, the then Secretary General Kgalema Motlanthe in his State of the Organization report stated that, and I quote, "Our people are turned into voting fodder," close quote. Honorable President, up until now, The way we as politicians have gone about doing our work, entrusted to us by our people, was not executed in a humane fashion. We always have put a yardstick on our work of what we or our party will gain out of it. We have always considered the impact our work has on the next election, not prioritizing the impact it has on our people first. Allow me, therefore, Honourable President, the audacity to state that us as politicians have not really put our people first. Honourable President, how can we call ourselves free from oppression when we are not winning the fight against poverty and inequality? Do we really give consideration on what it actually is that our people go through on a daily basis? Or are we happy with where we are, and therefore we will get to them at some later point in time? How can we defend a sector like fishing, which is $1 billion industry, yet we see kids every day digging into fish guts to find something to eat? What have we become? We should revisit the Marine Living Resource Act and make it to consider the poor and the resource together and not against each other. And stop this exploitation by big business at the cost of our people. Our fishing sector is heading for disaster and a total collapse if we don't take drastic action. All ministers seem to only have put measures in place for it to last just until their term is over. And no one was prepared to tackle this beast head on. The ocean's economy with a new, fresh and proper approach should have a much greater impact on addressing poverty and bringing in revenue for this country. Aquaculture could be bolstered to a much greater sector for food security, but also to relieve the pressure on the livestock in the sea. How can we look our grandparents on farms in the eyes who are being treated worse than the farmers' dogs and convince them that we are free from the bondage of oppression, especially in the Western Cape? We need an in-depth look at what this country offers our farm workers, and also those of them who are becoming too old to work. What then? We might already have legislation in place to support them, but yet they are not free. Does these beautiful pieces of legislation reach the intended outcomes? If not, why not? The topic to this discussion, Honourable President, should be tackled in a humane way, deliberately so. We as politicians should all agree that this 7th term is intervened by God, a higher power, whatever your belief system names him or her. Thereafter, we should commit ourselves to, from now on, deal with our people in a way that would put them first, and not only know where they are when it is election time. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Farmer. We are now moving to the next speaker, Honorable Nduli, the Premier of KZN.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson of the NCOP, His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa, Honorable Deputy Chairperson, President of SALGA, and honorable members of the NCOP. South Africa has come a long way in its journey of evolution and resilience. From the devastating crisis of state capture, COVID-19, which not only ravaged livelihoods, but also brought immeasurable grief of countless families, our nation has faced extraordinary challenges. The pandemic disrupted every facet of our society, from the economy to the healthcare, education, and the social fabric that binds us together. Yet amidst the adversity, we have witnessed the strength of our people and the resolve of our institutions to rebuild and recover. Today, as we reflect on these experiences, we are reminded of the need for collective action to address the remaining challenges and seize the opportunities that lies ahead. Honourable members, coming from KwaZulu-Natal, a province with its fair share of challenges, I can personally attest to the resilience and unwavering determination of our people and our provincial government. In addition to the devastating impact of COVID-19, KwaZulu-Natal has endured a significant unrest, numerous climate-related disasters. Each of these events has tested our strength and unity as a province, but has also imparted valuable lessons. Madam Chairperson, in May this year, the people of South Africa made their voices heard, faced with a choice to choose one party, but chose a more inclusive governance model. They chose a collective wisdom. Today, at the national level and in our own province, we have embraced government of national unity. This development represents a significant shift in our political landscape, creating a platform for a festival of ideas and a diverse perspective to shape the future of our nation. The aspirations of our people are weighed down by the persistent challenges of unemployment, crime, and corruption. Yet, even in this trying time, the resilience of our people reminds us of our duty to act with integrity and agency. Honourable members, in reaffirming our unwavering determination to work together for a better South Africa and a prosperous KwaZulu-Natal, we stand united in our commitment to collective action. Mr. President, your exceptional leadership and unwavering optimism about the future of our nation remains a beacon of hope for all South Africans. As the province of KwaZulu-Natal, government of provincial unity led by IFP, we stand firmly aligned with your efforts to address the challenges confronting our nation and to unlock the boundless opportunities that lies ahead. 3 weeks ago, you visited our province and you marked a pivotal moment in reinvigorating our shared cultural heritage. Alongside His Majesty, the King, you presided over the unveiling of the statue of one of the most iconic leaders in our history, King Shaka Senza at the King Shaka's International Airport. This historic act has reignited pride in our rich heritage and demonstrated the power of leadership in celebrating our past to inspire our future. Through your visionary leadership, our jewel of a city, eThekwini, is experiencing a remarkable resurgence. This progress is a direct result of your foresight in establishing the Presidential eThekwini Working Group. This initiative has not only catalyzed a growth and transformation in the city, but also reinforced its position as a key driver of economic development and social cohesion in the province. The PWG stands as a testament to your commitment to inclusive governance and sustainable urban development. We remain committed to supporting and advancing this initiative, ensuring that eThekwini continues to rise as a symbol of hope and progress for our people. The province of KwaZulu-Natal is steadfast in its commitment to positioning itself as a premier investment destination. Recently, we secured 90 billion rands of investment during the KZN investment conference. Our strategic assets, including the Port of Durban and Richards Bay, are undergoing significant planned expansion to enhance cargo handling capacity. These developments align with global logistics standards, ensuring KwaZulu-Natal remains an attractive gateway for international shipping and trade. In addition to our world-class port, KwaZulu-Natal special economic zones at the Richards Bay and Durban Trade Port present unparalleled opportunities for investors. These zones offer a streamlined regulatory framework, competitive tax incentives, and state-of-art infrastructure, making them ideal hub for both foreign and local investments. A critical strategic imperative for the province is to establish itself as a global manufacturing hub, seamlessly integrated into the global economy. The special economic zones are designed to attract investment that leverage advanced production technologies, enabling robust linkages with international value chains within the context of African continental free trade area. KwaZulu-Natal is uniquely positioned to capitalize on its geographical proximity. In the automotive sector, KwaZulu-Natal hosts leading global manufacturers with targeted incentives and investment in skills development. There is significant potential to expand local vehicle production and assembly for broader African markets. Honourable members, we are at a pivotal moment of accelerate KwaZulu-Natal economic transformation. Through a strategic investment in our infrastructure, industry, and human capital, we can unlock the full potential of our province in ensuring shared prosperity and long-term sustainability. In conclusion, as part of our effort to diversify the provincial economy, we are prioritizing the maritime sector by leveraging the strategic advantages afforded by the natural resources and infrastructure of Richards Bay and eThekwini harbors. This investment in the maritime economy will unlock significant opportunities for economic growth, job creation, and global competitiveness. Our institutions of higher learning, such as Mangosuthu University of Technology and the University of Zululand, will play a pivotal role in this endeavor. Their contributions will be critical, particularly in driving innovations, research, and institutional capacity building. This partnership will ensure that our province is not only equipped with the skills and expertise needed for the maritime economy, but is also at the forefront of sustainable development in this sector. This initiative underscores our commitment to building a thriving, inclusive economy for the benefit of our people. In KwaZulu-Natal, we are working tirelessly to combat crime through community policing and collaboration with the police in order to enable investment and economic activities to offer new opportunities. More than 300 inspections to spaza shops have been conducted, with 90 shops closed for non-compliance. Let us work together to enhance the management of our borders in order to protect our local businesses and even protect job opportunities for our people. Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, during his time, said women are special. I wish to call upon all men to walk the talk and protect women and children against gender-based violence. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Premier. We are now moving to Honourable Makesini.
Are you still on the EFF? Only two left.
Mandibulis, Sir Chairperson, and greeting to the President, and the Bulis abantu boMzantsi Afrika and the ground forces of the economic freedom fighters. Over 10,000 ground forces of the EFF in Gauteng gathered on Tuesday to picket at the Constitutional Court on Tuesday in support of relentless and pursuit of accountability and justice in the Phala scandal. Dibulele nombutho we-ATM ngokujoyina kolu daba olungaka olubalulekileyo. South Africa, like many other African countries, continue to wallow away at the hands of poverty. While our leaders will only care about themselves and their families and their children and their comrades, and even cautious they store money while abantwana bethu belala belambile bengenathemba ukuba baze bakubone ukutya in their lifetime. 70% of our children in the early childhood development come from poor homes where most of the basic needs are not met. 1 in 4 children under the age of 5 are started by chronic malnutrition. That resulted in 57% of them not reaching their physical and cognitive development milestone, losing out on growing and the possibility of fighting against their circumstance because the poverty is so rife. Their brains are not capacitated for cater for their growth and the future success. Persons with disability also suffer peculiar poverty, President. A poverty of lack of access to opportunity and means of accessible tool. What kind of the government is concerned with if our people, they can't get even the hearing aid so that they can hear what is happening? Abantwana bethu abangasuka kwifamily ezihluphekile. Equality ye-wheelchair, umntu omnyama ohlala eButshabelo uyazayifumana kuphi. I-poverty of leadership, i-poverty yabantu inkulu kakhulu kweli lizwe lethu, President. Person with disability, also President, continue to show the highest proportion of not having a formal education, the lowest proportion to attain high education. A government that fails most vulnerable in the society has no commitment to alleviate oppression of poverty. Our people try by all means to counter the system in every turn they make. They meet abatata abaneziso esikhulu ababizwa onotenda abatya bade balibala bafuneke basevisa abantu akushongo mna phofu kutsho umuntu weGNU umama apha ebethetha apha weDA. So into ye corruption funeke ilwiswe, President, so that aba bantu banikwe project mabawugqibe umsebenzi bayeke ukuthatha imali bengasebenzeli abantu aba bebethe bazawubenzela. Our people are try by all means to counter this system, but banena babantu baba blokayo. Black women sought out in the textile industry, and the government failed to protect this industry and give it over by focusing on import and protection of big entrepreneurs over our people to attempt to make their living. We only saw the government intervention while online stores like Shein become the threat to a big retailers in the country. However, we never saw the government lift a finger when abomama basezilalini abathungayo indawo yabo yokuthathwa ithathwa over to the Chinese enda idominatwa ngama-China. So funeke nabo ba-protectwe abamama bethu. Government is always on the side of the rich entrepreneurs and not of our people, attempting to make a living. Poverty of our people caused by the poverty of our decisive leadership. The government of today failed to internalize the depth of poverty that engulfs our people. Thousands of families sitting at home in this moment only have water and onion on the fridge with no hope ukuthi bazaye ebhedini betye ukutya okupheleleyo. Perhaps this is the precisely what the government of the day envisaged for our people. This is no longer degradation for ideological clarity, but a blunted disregard of the wellness of our people in most vulnerable society. The 7 non-negotiated pillars of the economic freedom fighters stand to address the status quo of fundamental levels. At the very formation of the economic freedom fighter, the question to premise of our degeneration and the nation were answered. It is a foundational level of the EFF that gives decisive and scientific intervention on what to be done. Our decision is to fight for economic emancipation of the people of South Africa, Africa, and the world. The economic freedom fighter located the struggle of economic emancipation within the long resistance of South African racist, colonial, and imperialist, political and economic and social domination. This glorious resistance started with the Khoi and the San people, rising against the colonial domination, marked by the arrival of the settlers of the colonists in 1652. In the Cape here, they basically represent more than 350 years of South African resistance against the colonial and economic domination and exploitation. South Africa is rooted in the alliance between the British and the Afrikaner capital. From its inception, capitalism in South Africa was underlined by the racist segregation and the sexism. It discriminates and oppresses the black majority. It discriminates, oppresses the women. South Africa capitalism continued to be characterized by extreme exploitation of black working class. In short, President, black majority, whatever their class located, are integrated in the mainstream of the economy, in the subjugated position relatively to the white people. While legislative forms of colonial apartheid domination have been eroded 20 years ago, the economic system of marginalized, oppressed, and exploited the black majority is still intact with few individuals benefiting, but only because we have been co-opted to portray wrong picture that all is well. Noba sibona abantu balale bengadlile. The EFF has consistently shared various ways to address an alarming the gap between the have and nots of our society. We once presented tangible ways to address a crisis of poverty, not artificially at the static level, but from the very rooted cause. Expropriation of South African land without compensation for equal redistribution, kufuneka yenzeke President. Ngoba umhlaba yeyona source yokuthi wonke umuntu kule ndawo sikuyo singakwazi ukuba abantu baphile bakwazi ukubeka ukutya etafileni. We need to nationalize imine, President. Asizuvela sifumane zonke ezi strategic sectors of the economy ngokuthandaza. Funeka si own means of economy as a country. Sihambi singekuhambisa raw materials zinjalo zibuye sezi a complete project because awusinceda ukuthi abantu bakuthi bafumane umsebenzi. They should also include the mental and the banks and energy production and telecommunication return, ownership of central transport and logistic modes such as Transnet, Sasol, Metel, Eskom and Telkom, and all harbors of airport. Limit to foreign ownership, the strategic and monopoly sector, where the state does not exert full ownership in order to protect South Africa's sovereignty to the limit of repatriation of the profit. Masidile ngalento kuhambisa yonke into ethu injalo ilihlaza injalo President. Build the state capacity that would lead to the abolishment of the tenders because siyazibona as tender as sebenzi. Out of the 9 provinces, President, they're on the housing backlog. Free State and Northwest, they are the biggest contributors. Abawenza umsebenzi. Project is a human settlement about sebenzi umsebenzi funeka naleyo siyijonge President because we cannot sit all lurunsare turu mara litura re bone maybe liapokotong Northwest because Northwest is number 9. Build massive capacity in the public health care sector instead of attempting to hide inequity behind the NHI. That will strip the state resources whilst failing to address the structural issues immense on the healthcare sector. Poverty is deeply inclined to healthcare. Our people are not healthy because they are poor. The state shouldn't go through this housing construction campaign to improve quality of size of the low-cost houses. State should further regulate housing finance through providing housing finance that does not exceed the period of 10 years. Integrate human settlement in the real sense, be defined of the settlement-led the state, with guarantee bulk services such as water provision, electricity, sewer system, and more. Housing reposition should be illegal in this country. Ngoba belungu bathi umuntu noba etyala i-15,000 athathele umzi wakhe abantwana babo balahlwe ngaphandle as his own as the bank President. The state at all levels should have abolished the provision of sanitation whatever the people reside, and fundamental human rights which should lead to the abolishment of the basket and the pit toilet. Upper a Western Cape President, black people and the colored are worse off than any race. They don't own land. They don't have houses. The crime rate is very high. Kodwa ba busy but where the DA govern yonke into lungile. Abantu babulawa abantu abamnyama abanamhlaba apha Western Cape. Implement the massive protective industrial development to create millions of sustainable jobs and introduce progressive and minimum wage in order to close the gap between the rich and the poor. Within the context of state-led industrial policy, the state should protect in-fed industry, particularly in the areas where the country does not enjoy competitive advantage. The industrialization of South Africa should opt to be both export-led and import-subsist industrialization. It is an open secret, Chairperson, that South Africa continues to export natural resources and import virtually all finished goods of services. South Africa, 10 biggest export to China are natural raw material, while our import from China are finished goods of services. Invest.
Honorable member, can you please take your seat? Honorable Badenhorst. In terms of Rule 47, no delegate may converse aloud when the speaker is on the podium. Can you please respect that and allow the speaker to speak?
I was sledging.
Thank you. You may take the podium.
I was sledging.
Invested massively in development of African economy. The South African state capacity to do big business should expand to African continent. State-owned enterprise should heavily invest in infrastructure and industrial development of the African continent. Lastly, the institution of open, accountable, free government and society without fear of victimization by state of agency. Much routine it meant in our failure to rise the nation rest on the lack of a political will. We are faced with it. It's cemented by the corruption that makes up, identify the government of today. A government that still, even from those who are disabled, is a shame. These are the intervention of the EFF that have offered to the people of South Africa. We request, President, please fight the corruption. Iqale kula ofisi yakho iye kubo bonke ngoba abantu abafunanga babelwe. I-corruption mayingabi ne-position, mayingabi ne-political party, mayingabi ne-color. So, and here in the Western Cape, President, kakuye uyobona abantu base-Kraaifontein baphila njani. Uyeke umamelo besiqhathwa apha ngaba banendlebe zelanga, abangabasebenzeli abantu abamnyama, abangabahoyanga. The only thing abayaziyo kubathathela ivote, babathembisa babathanda, bababize onothikoloshi bengabahoyanga uba ngabantu abaphilayo. Ndiyabulela.
Order, honorable members. We are now moving to the next speaker, Honorable Briet. You've got 5 minutes.
Thank you, House Chair. Agbare President, om amper die helfte van Suid-Afrikaners op een of ander toelaag te hê, is nie 'n sukses nie. En dit spreek ook nie van armoedeverligting nie. En dit is waarop ek gaan fokus. It is the cost of insufficient service delivery and dilapidated infrastructure on local businesses and agriculture that makes tackling the high cost of living almost impossible. In municipalities that do not have load reduction, yes, we've been without load shedding for 247 days today, but the damage has already been done. Recent findings showed that approximately 75% of all small to medium-sized businesses fail due to production killers like load shedding. A recent study on the results of load shedding on some small businesses in the Colin Shabane local municipality in Limpopo showed that there was an estimated loss of 61% of income on those days that have electricity. And Colin Shabane is a small municipality in comparison. What will those losses be if looking at a city like Johannesburg, and how will it impact unemployment, or employment rather? As we've seen in municipalities in the Free State, like in Gauteng, for example, that faces continual load reduction, job losses have been immense and are still continuing. Then, unreliable and unsanitary water supply issues are also wreaking havoc on both locals and our tourism industry. Some of our most poverty-stricken communities have had to pay money to drive kilometers to have access to clean drinking water. And areas like Southbroom in KZN that are tourist hotspots have reported being without water for multiple days at a time. And not all hotels and guest houses and small businesses can afford buying alternate means of acquiring drinkable water. And therefore, this leads to these small businesses shutting down because, let's face it, tourists don't want to go on a holiday if there isn't any water where they're staying. This has and continues to lead to major job losses and closures of local businesses, doing nothing to further exacerbate the already devastated South African communities. The multi-million rand business, Clover, has had to move its factory from Lichtenburg in Northwest to eThekwini in KZN, where for many years it has employed the locals of Lichtenburg because of service delivery failures and the fact that they cannot meaningfully operate anymore. Many factories and businesses have had to spend more money on operational costs just to be able to function due to inadequate service delivery or at times a complete service delivery collapse. And therefore they have to drastically increase operation costs, forcing businesses, factories and farms to then unfortunately escalate their prices just to do business and be able to survive. And then as well, this amounts to people who are continuously finding themselves being unemployed due to mass layoffs because struggling businesses can no longer afford to keep these dedicated and hard-working staff in their employment. And this does not address poverty in the country. Honourable President, there are a number of glaringly obvious reasons why we are not satisfactorily addressing poverty or the high cost of living. One of these is that it has become almost impossible for businesses to flourish. The reasons above are just some of the mitigating factors. Meneer die President, I would have loved to answer you in depth on a question you asked businesses at the Business Unity South Africa Economic Indaba with regards to the problem with legislation and how it suffocates businesses, and I think it is very prudent in this debate. But unfortunately, I see my time is running out and I don't think you would have liked what I had to say. So let me rather conclude by saying this. Agbare President, die oplossing om armoede te verminder en die hoë lewenskoste te verlaag is heel eenvoudig. Basiese dienste moet gelewer word deur betroubare energievoorsiening, skoon en beskikbare watertoevoer, gereelde vullisverwydering, slaggate moet toegemaak word, spoorweë moet werk, toegang tot kwaliteit onderwys, gehalte gesondheidsorg en die afskaffing van stremmende wetgewing. Dit is hoe ons Suid-Afrika sal herstel en
Honourable
bou.
Preet,
Ek
your
dank u.
time is up. Thank you very much. I take this opportunity and invite our Honourable Premier of Limpopo, Honourable Ramaphosa. I'm told that she has joined in on virtual platform. Over to you, Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Chairperson of our NCOP. To His Excellency, the President of the Republic, President Ramaphosa, and all honorable members in this august house, receive our warm greetings from Limpopo, the home of champions, Chairperson. We extend our heartfelt greetings from Mulechi village, the proud home of Magesi Football Club. Mr. President, this remarkable team, a new entrant into the Premier Soccer League, has not only stunned the football world by winning the Carling Black Label Cup, but has also planted seeds of hope in the lives of our young people, affirming that their dreams of success are indeed valid. Allow me, Chairperson, to borrow from this inspiring story to illustrate the resilience of our province. Who would have ever thought that a club from a village would become the talk of the nation? The young players of Magesi FC have lived the David and Goliath story, triumphing over established clubs in the professional league and making history in the process, beating both Orlando Pirates and Sundowns, the well-resourced teams that we all know about. Never has a village club won a major cup in the professional soccer league, which has traditionally been dominated by township and city-based teams. Today, we proudly declare, look at us, we are Dikwena Chameti. In this spirit of resilience that inspire us every day to bring about meaningful change in our province, we are committed to fighting poverty and unemployment and creating a conducive environment for our economy to grow. Chairperson, our people do not require much to thrive. The provision of basic services in a supportive socio-economic environment is essential. Chairperson, the President has articulated the priorities of this administration. The President spoke of inclusive economic growth and, of course, reducing poverty, tackling the high cost of living, and building a capable, ethical, developmental state. In Limpopo, we are fully aligned to these goals, and our actions are aimed at changing the narrative of continuously being referred to as a rural and poor province. At the beginning of this month, we implemented our commitment to attract investment in our province. While our initial aim was to raise 50 billion, we emerged from that Limpopo investment conference with an astounding 120 billion of pledges. These investments will significantly contribute to our efforts to grow the economy, combat poverty, and reduce unemployment. Notably, half of these pledges will be directed towards renewable energy, with 40 billion earmarked for solar plants in the Musina-Makhado Special Economic Zone. However, we face challenges from imperial lobby groups spreading misinformation about our intention with the SEZ. They claim that our development is coal-based, yet we are steadfast in our commitment to green energy. Furthermore, they falsely assert that we will destroy 6,000 baobab trees. This is a fallacy that we must collectively dispel. The 80 hectares designated for the SEZ do not contain that number of baobabs, and all protected species will be treated in accordance with the environmental impact assessment certificate issued. We the people of Musina-Makhado will not allow foreign interest to obstruct our fight against unemployment. We are determined to create over 20,000 jobs through this project. Just 2 weeks ago, Mr. President, we launched another 100 megawatt solar project in the Fitahomutuvatsi area in partnership with the Chinese ambassador and Samanco. This, Mr. President, you will remember, it's a follow-up of the agreement that was signed during your state visit to China. This initiative will reduce our reliance on the national grid while creating local jobs of our people. Honorable Briet, we just want to remind you that we are the first to admit the challenges of load shedding. You don't have to remind us. We know about it, and we committed to the people of this country that we are going to deal with it and fix it. And we have done so up to so far. We are on the right path to be able to deal with the issue of load shedding. And congratulations to you, Mr. President, and Minister Ramaphosa, who has managed in Sitokwa to fix load shedding at the Sitokwa way. You will remember Batokwa people of this province. Limpopo provincial government is actively engaged in various initiatives aimed at reducing poverty and addressing high cost of living. Since the beginning of 7th administration, we were focused on industrialization and beneficiation, particularly in sectors related to mining. We are committed to stimulating economic growth by supporting small and medium enterprises through funding, training, and resource provided by the Limpopo Economic Development Agency. Investment in infrastructure such as roads, schools, and healthcare facilities are crucial for economic development and poverty alleviation. We have made significant progress in water provision, easing the bottlenecks in the Guyani project and ensuring that some of the villages receive water from the Nandoni Dam. We are, however, worried about the slow pace that we are working on other districts in order to address this basic service. Since we understand that improved infrastructure can facilitate better access to markets and services, our plan for roads will continue to ensure that the over 13,000 gravel roads are tied. In the meantime, we have concluded the process of hiring 300 workers who will be joining the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure to do the work internally. So the fact that we are insourcing, it's not a dream, but a reality. We will also be procuring more of our yellow fleet. Hence, Mr. President, our famous hashtag Dikgeregere Wednesday, the program that is run by our internal staff using our own internal resources, because we are committed towards capacitating the state. Agriculture, it's also a vital sector in Limpopo, and we are promoting agricultural development through support programs for farmers, including training, technical assistance, and financial support. We are implementing the integrated food and nutrition security program by supporting households with production input for establishment of home gardens, supporting micro enterprises projects with production inputs, and providing mechanization support services by ensuring that more producers are plowing. And this planting season, we've already started to support them. The identification of beneficiaries is done through a call for application for support services through the linkage with the different sector departments. President, the program
Honorable Premier, please wrap up.
Let me also congratulate you, Mr. President, through the nutrition scheme, the food that our program to increase the number of clinics, to activate them to work 24 hours. It's mainly to make sure that the life of a pregnant woman can be able to deliver at the next door. Over 1.6 million learners attend schools without paying school fees. And when I said I'm congratulating you, is that during the 6th administration, it is your legacy, Mr. President, that you make sure that our learners
Honorable
not only
Premier,
receive the
your
meals,
time
but
is up. Thank you very much. Can I request the front table to please set up their time correctly so that we stick to the time. I'm now moving to Honorable MEC from Gauteng, Honorable Mamabolo.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Let me, on behalf of the Premier Panyaza Lesufi, whose apology I have the privilege and honor to convey, and of course on behalf of the entire Gauteng provincial government, it is a deep honor and privilege to extend our greetings to His Excellency the President. Let me also take this opportunity to greet the Deputy Chair of the NCOP and all the presiding officers, and of course the Chief Whip, acknowledge all the premiers, all MECs, the President of SALGA, all councillors. I must also take this opportunity to greet the Speaker of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature who's here with us, Honorable Madam Speaker Good afternoon to you and welcome. Now, honorable members, allow me, as part of this very important debate, to extend and convey our message of solidarity, best wishes, and of course, speedy recovery to all the people in the West Rand, in our province, especially those in Gauteng and Tukomsres that sustained injuries and for the loss of assets and property following the devastating rainfall yesterday in the afternoon. Our Premier and of course the Executive Mayor of the Rand West District local municipality have visited the areas, and of course our Provincial Disaster Management Center and the teams are on the ground to support the people, and we convey our best regards to all of them. Let me also take this opportunity to appreciate that the debate takes place within the period of the 16 days of activism for no violence against women and children, and we commit ourselves to fight gender-based violence and femicide. Now, honorable members, as a province, I must say we marvel, extol, and appreciate the deliberate choice of the theme for this debate today, dedicating our efforts towards reducing poverty and tackling the high cost of living, close quote. Now, honorable members, the President has spoken so eloquently and so well, and we welcome the message from the President. Let me also just add that Karl Marx has been sufficiently quoted, Amica Cabral, and I think all has been said by the leading premiers and all the other speakers before me. But it is very clear that, President, whilst we think as a province that you have correctly and adequately focused us on the bigger picture and the strategic task, and I thought your message was loud and clear, you talked to where we come from, where we are, and outlined in a very reassuring way the way forward. We also take note that apparently some of the members that have debated here have found it very much difficult to grasp the strategic and essential content of what the President said, and you could hear in what they said. But we will appeal, President and honorable members, that let us not be distracted by those still clutching at straws. Let's focus on the bigger picture and that strategic direction given by our most well-reclaimed and loved President Cyril Ramaphosa. So to that extent, honorable members, we want to make an appeal that let's focus on the strategic task as outlined by the President. Now, having said that, I would like just to briefly say that the province of Gauteng, led by our Premier and of course by all members, is focusing itself on the following priorities: economic recovery and reconstruction, fighting crime, corruption, vandalism and lawlessness, changing the living conditions in 26 townships, 700 informal settlements and 6 hostels, strengthening the capacity of the state to deliver services to our people, health and wellness, which called for a mandate and of course realignment of our priorities. This, honorable members, is what constitutes the point of unity and the task at hand before the Gauteng provincial government. Let me take this opportunity to inform members that the provincial government of Gauteng's effort to reduce poverty, to empower the people, to improve the quality of life is anchored on our well-celebrated program known as Nasi Spani, led by our Premier. This program has created 90,000 job opportunities, and I think its success is unprecedented. I can say, Honorable President, that I'm quite sure that our province must be definitely the leading one on meeting the ANC targets of creating job opportunities. I'm quite sure that we are number one if an evaluation was to be done based on NASI's PANI. Let me also indicate that we will be working with national government to make sure that we expand and, of course, continue to roll out this program, which is very important to create job opportunities for the youth and for the people. I must also say we are very much pleased that our special economic zones in the city of Tshwane, the city of Ikuruleni, at OR Tambo, that's coming in Sidibeng and the West End, remain the backbone of making sure that we create jobs and drive income and revenue to our households to fight poverty. We remain the province that is leading on the target of financing and supporting the township economy, the SMMEs and cooperatives, and I'm talking here about a share of our annual budget that goes to support SMMEs, cooperatives, and of course the township economy. I must also say that the president has really covered us in many areas that he has spoken to, measures to deal with the challenge of poverty. We welcome, President, the significance played by the social security net, reducing the cost of travel and, of course, of transport, addressing the challenge of spatial inequalities. We also agree with you, President, about infrastructure, and I particularly like the word that the president used in signifying the importance of infrastructure. And he used the word, I hope I got it, President, subject to your correction. I like the word of the flying wheel to support and drive the economy. I looked at this word, the flying wheel, and found that it means a mechanical device that stores rotational energy and helps keep the engine running smoothly. Now, being the economic hub of this country, being the engine of this country, we appreciate this notion of a flying wheel, helping to keep the engine running smooth. That is why, Your Excellency, Mr. President, in our province, we have focused our attention on cleaning the nuts and bolts of this engine. We believe that the challenge with infrastructure delivery lies in the project management value chain, the nuts and bolts of the engine. We know that there are issues of money, finances, that will never be enough. But we are trying our best to clean the pipeline because it is blocked, projects can't move, we can't get the value in every cent, and of course it's economic multiplier to create jobs, to create the economy, because the money is sitting in the provincial bank account. It is not moving because this flying wheel, the engine, is not running smooth. And that's what we are trying to do. We are trying to
Honorable
liberate
MEC, your
smart
time is
technology.
up. Thank you very much. Honorable
Thank you very much, honorable members. Thanks a lot.
Honorable members, order. I'm now taking this opportunity. I'm inviting Honorable Billy to take the podium.
The Honorable Chairperson, the Honorable President, Honorable members, and fellow South Africans, good day. Chairperson of the NCOP, many of us here today will speak about our experiences, the experiences of our people, the people that we serve, their hardships, which includes poverty, crime, unemployment, and many other social ills which still persist in our communities. We will sharply raise these issues so that the President gets an opportunity to reconnect with our people, capture our province's conditions, and act appropriately to collectively resolve issues faced by our people. Mr. President, I rise today in this House, firstly to reaffirm the Democratic Alliance's unwavering commitment to using every opportunity at our disposal to reduce poverty, to tackle high cost of living for all South Africans, particularly the poor. According to the recent statistics, more than 18 million South Africans are living in poverty, many of them in rural areas, informal settlements, and townships. Many of our people are not just unemployed, but they are poor. They are struggling to put food on the table. They are hungry, Mr. President. Our people are trapped in a vicious generational cycle of poverty. Our people can no longer afford electricity. This is an impending crisis. They must choose between buying electricity and buying a loaf of bread. Honorable members, to resolve this impending crisis, we simply cannot afford to do things the same way it has been done in the past 30 years, under the ANC government alone. If we do so, we risk having our starving nation revolting against us, plunging our country into a national disaster. Today, Mr. President, collectively we must take action to prevent this impending national disaster. We must do things differently as the GNU. Mr. President, as I did express my commitment, or the DA's commitment in the GNU when I responded to your address in July this year, I made it clear that the DA ministers in the GNU will hit the ground running to rescue the situation faced by our people in South Africa. Mr. President, you would have seen the work done by Minister Dr. Schreiber in Home Affairs, who is working tirelessly to digitally transform the department, who is working around the clock to bring Home Affairs at home services. We call upon you, Mr. President, to continue to support these initiatives. Things such as the state information technology is a huge hindrance in the department. The minister yesterday informed this House that a lot more could be achieved if it was not for the CETA, which is a huge hindrance in bringing digital transformation, not just in the Department of Home Affairs, Mr. President, but also in other critical departments. It is a useless legislature that needs to be relooked at. Mr. President, you need to urgently do something about this. When you appointed Minister of Public Works, Minister Dean McPherson, he vowed to turn South Africa into a construction site. You then, in turn, supported him, Mr. President. Together, through your collective pronouncements, you are making progress in the construction sector. More jobs are being created in this space, as it was announced in the recent statistics. This is evidence of what can be achieved when we work together, Mr. President. The House last week commended you and Minister McPherson for the work you've been doing. Minister Solly Malatsi is working around the clock to expand access to reliable, cheap broadband to the poorest South Africans in the poorest places, and is taking active steps to making smartphones cheaper so people can take advantage of the increase in available of bandwidth. Evidence of this is what he's working on, which is bringing in Starlink to the country, and we're hoping that the President will support this initiative. Mr. President, your party, the ANC, your ministers, must also play their part in fully committing to be for the people. It is no longer business as usual. Blue lights, corruption, personal accumulation of wealth, and more importantly, arrogance is no longer an option. Mr. President, the ANC, your ministers, continue to be, if they continue to behave as if it's business as usual and behave with complacency, you must know, Mr. President, that you become the biggest liability in the GNU. You subject not only your party, but the rest of us, the country and its people, to chaos and anarchy. By the far left, who've got no interest in the well-being of our people, but have mastered the art of manipulation and posing as sudden saviors of our nation. The MK and the EFF do not care about the poverty of black South Africans. Both the leaders of these parties, of these two Ponzi schemes rather, have robbed black people in this country, particularly the poor. If the government of national unity does not attend to poverty and high cost of living of South Africans, Mr. President, chaos and anarchy will prevail. We need to attend to the skyrocketing price of electricity. Now, basic essential food items, lack of functioning and affordable public transport. You spoke at length about transport and its affordability. You've got eThekwini municipality, which has got the integrated public transport, which is not functioning since 2010 because there's a stalemate between the municipality and the taxi associations. We cannot continue in this manner, Mr. President. We have to look at the fuel levies. Mr. President, you need to step in and do something about this. Mr. President, the GNU must and it will work. Mr. President, unfortunately, this is going to require from you the greatest courage. It requires you, Mr. President, to stand up against those within your own ranks who undermine the progress that this country so desperately needs. There are rogue elements. We've got them here as well. Mr. President, you're going to have to stand up against those people. I thank you, Mr. President.
Well done. Brilliant. Well done. Take that.
Thank you, Honorable Billy. We are now moving order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. We're now moving to Honorable Peter. You've got 5 minutes, Honorable Peter.
Sihlalo wendlu NCOP alikho igama esinongalibizi ingelo lakho mongameli ngoba nguwe umongameli weRepublic of South Africa. I-restation sagqitha kuzo mongameli. Izicengcelezo sagqitha kuzo South Africa. Uluphindo lokuxelelwa kwabantu ngendlala abakuyo ngentswela ngqesho abakuyo ngokulamba kwabo ayisisindawo xa senza lo restation. If future tense doesn't heal the nation of today, the only thing that can heal the nation is the present tense. Senzani ngoku ngabantu bethu abafayo, abalambileyo, ababulawayo. Siyaziva President indlela osebenza ngayo urhulumente esiyinxalenye nathi kuyo. Kodwa si UDM asixolanga President. Sithi tshintsha guluva. Njengoko izigidi zabantu belilizwe bekwimo yonxunguphalo beqhwaleliswa President ngumzali ozele abantwana abathathu. Sasicelile ke mongameli sisithi the tender system mayisuke President ngoba izele amaqanda namantshontsho. I-tender system izele mongameli i-extortion ngumntana we-tender system. I-tender system mongameli izele i-mafias ngumntana we-tender lo mongameli. Bayaphela abantu mongameli omhle welilizwe bapheliswa i-tender system. Despite any strides that have been made by the government to build our economy for a decade and a half, our economy has barely grown in the beginning of the 7th term. You mentioned, my Honorable President, that your government is moving more faster. Nangona President ivalwa i-extortion. Ezilalini zethu mongameli, abantu bakuthi bayabulawa bethathelwa imfuyo mhla nezolo. Abantu bethu basela amanzi amdaka nezimvu. Yiyo loo nto siyicela si-UDM sithi masahlukane nesicengcelezo i-restation yokuxelela aba bantu ngeentswelo zabo. Mongameli, amafama ethu amnyama ame ekoneni. Xa ungena kwaShoprite udibana neveg, udibana nefruit, kodwa ukuyibona ifruit yabantu abamnyama. Ngobani abantu badivalisa ifruit kwaShoprite, kwaCheckers, kwaSpar, kwaPick n Pay. Ziphi ifruits zabantu abamnyama? Apha amafama ethu aqanduselwa ngulo rhulumente. Sisaqhamla kumafama eqaluselwe ntlandlolo. Masilungise President. Yiyo loo nto sisithi mongameli sicela amapolisa enze umsebenzi wawo. Makubekho i-special task force esidila directly notsotsi president. Sinefowuni zotsotsi bayasifowunela basixelela uba siyanazi uba nine-property ezinga. Sifuna so amount. Abazifihli mongameli akho nto sinoyenza ngoba asikhuselekanga. Ukuthatha amajoni siwabeka ezinkampini ayizokunceda abantu ezindlini babulawele ezindlini abantu mongameli. Amajoni abazomnceda nto xa siyovala ii-sites singakhusela abantu ngoba ootsotsi siyabazi kodwa sikwazi ukuzikhusela kubo. Xa ndigqibezela ke mongameli, kukho umbane wamaphiko mongameli ohamba lonke eli lizwe. Siyafuna uyazi uba lo mbane uyaphi mongameli, usinceda ngantoni nathina mongameli. Ilizwe lethu mongameli lelethu sisebenzise nathi noba nje sisezinye iparty kodwa sisebenzise. Siyambulala ke uNjengele umthathile wamenza the Minister of Defence. Siyasibona isidima ngoku se-defence sime ngenyawo. Inkosi mongameli.
Thank you very much, Honorable Peter. Order, honorable members. Order, Honorable Makesini. I'm now inviting our president, the president of SALGA, Councillor Stofile.
Chair of the NCOP, thank you very much. Greetings to you, the Deputy Chair, President General of the Combined Forces and Community of the Republic of South Africa, members of the NCOP, members coming from the South African Local Government Association, the premiers of our provinces, beautiful provinces of our country, the MSCs that happen to be here. It is indeed a privilege to say a few things on this debate that has been convened by yourself, Chair, and we really appreciate it under the theme, efforts towards reducing poverty and tackling the high cost of living. And our entry point on this, all these things happen in the local space, in the local government space. And the critical part of that is how do we collaborate and coordinate our efforts and make an impact on the life of ordinary people. This calls upon all of us to act with purpose and unity, emphasizing the vital role of local government in realizing such a vision. Local government is the sphere of government where the people's aspirations meet and must be met by the state in action. It is here that service delivery, development, and democracy should find expression. However, we must also acknowledge that local government is the sphere that is most vulnerable to fiscal pressures, governance breakdowns, and increasing community demands. Local government is literally where a state meets its people. It is that juncture where service delivery, economic development, and social transformation coverage to address the daily needs and aspirations of the community at large. We often say that local government represent the legs of the body, legs of the state that carrying the weight of the service delivery and governance. Without the strong, stable, and capable municipalities, the entire system risks. It will then affect the poor of the poorest in all corners of our country. It is in here, at this critical intersection, that we need to concentrate our energy and resources to make sure that local government can deliver effectively, equitably, in a sustainable manner. Local government, President, is more than a sphere of government. It's a bedrock on which the entire state rests. Cities and towns are therefore the legs of the state and the entire government. The sphere of service delivery, the municipalities are therefore expected to render essential services to the people, ensure economic development, and enhance the quality of life for all South Africans. At the same time, we readily admit today that municipality cannot achieve such a mandate in isolation without collaborations and coordinating our efforts. Local government must work in collaboration with the national and provincial governments, traditional leaders, community-based organizations, and the private sector. When we unite in purpose, no challenge is insurmountable. Together, we can eliminate redundancy, integrate our efforts, and deliver services that transform our lives. Our Constitution, President, entrenches cooperative governance as a principle which binds the three spheres of government. However, the reality is that these spheres often operate in silos. This is what you said in your opening of the 7th Parliament, which harms our communities. We must recommit to strengthen intergovernmental relations. This is not merely a legal obligation. It is a moral and practical necessity that we must, all of us, commit to. Collaboration, we can address overlapping mandates, align developments, priorities, and focus on the collective objectives of meetings of our people's interests today. SALGA remains committed to acting as a conduit for local government, ensuring that municipalities have a voice in the decision-making processes and that local needs are adequately addressed. We must also recognize the role of traditional leaders and community-based organizations as a vital partners in governance. Their inclusion ensures that our policies and programs reflect the lives and realities of their people. And that is why, President, on behalf of the SALGA, we appreciate your commitment and engaging with us in the recent past about the amendment on the electricity bill. And when you listen to us, when we explain the devastating conditions if that law, it comes to effect insofar as the municipality is concerned. I want to raise this and link it with this issue that chronic underfunding in local government undermines the municipality's ability to meet community needs. This challenge is particularly pronounced in the province like Northern Cape. I think this House will remember the Premier of Northern Cape, when you met the Minister of Cooperative Governance, he raised that in his province, he's managing 1.3 million people. 800 of that 1.3 are depending to government grants. And that, if you can look into that interpretation, then it says the payability of households to municipal services is very low. And that's what it was said in this House. And we believe that the Premier of Northern Cape statement reinforced SALGA's assertion that the current funding model for local government is outdated and inadequate. The 1998 white paper on local government made some critical assumptions about the financial viability of municipalities, particularly their ability to raise revenue from key trading services. It was expected that two major trading services, namely electricity and property rates, will be able to drive the increase in ability of collection in the municipality into the future. With the introduction today of the solar panels or system into local government, it tells us that we need, President, to borrow from Thomas Sankara's word. We must have the courage to turn our backs from using the old formulas and have the courage to invent the future. And that courage, it starts now. One of the courage that we must have is that as the envelope of allocation and collection of municipality, it becomes smaller and smaller every day. We must ask what type of municipal system we want to see in the next period. What will be the possibilities of municipalities through this House and any other House led by yourself, President, to think about possibilities of municipalities to participate in the solar business
and generate income that it will then complement the income that is reducing every time. It's a debate that this House, it must look into it and not shy away into it. If we want a local government system that is sustainable, that is able to drive services, that is able to respond to challenges and collaborate and coordinate with all spheres of government, it is important for this House to look at this. Our call today is absolute. We must increase intergovernmental cooperation and strengthen cooperative governance to address the problems facing our communities. Because the communities, that's where they live, that's where they feel the government. If you don't strengthen the local government, all efforts that you are making, they won't be felt by communities. The constituents we serve, our shareholders or participants in our communities through democratic means, when they come
Honorable
out every time.
President, your time is up. Thank you very much. I take this opportunity and invite Honorable Legwase to the podium.
Ere ke simolle ka go dumedisa mo presidente wa naga motlotlegi Cyril Ramaphosa modulasetilo wa lekgotla la setšhaba la diprovince mme re filwe motshweni Tsipane ditonakgolo le bakhuduthamaga botlhe ba ba leng gone ditilo tsotlhe ka go latelana baagi mo nageng ya rona go tswa go dikhutlong tse nne tsa lefatshe ke a le dumedisa. I stand before you in this esteemed chamber of the NCOP to address a matter of urgent significance, dedicating our efforts towards reducing poverty and tackling the high cost of living. Before I start, Honorable Briet, there must never be a point where we are pushed to remember our history where a black person was not afforded a chance or were expected to travel kilometers without water. And there was a point in time where a black person was not supposed to have electricity. Please do not take us back there. Honorable Chairperson, the freedoms which democracy brings will forever remain hollow and carry on meaning to the vast majority of our people if we are not accompanied by real and tangible improvements in their material lives. Mr. President, during the OPA, I said to you, it is because I understood that we need and we must work tirelessly and unshakable We need to work tirelessly and with unshakable conviction to accelerate economic intervention aimed at tackling and entrenched inequalities, rampant unemployment that continue to plague our nation, breeding poverty and despair among millions of our people. While addressing London Square in 2005, former President Nelson Mandela said, and I quote, "Overcoming poverty is not a gesture of charity. It is an act of justice. It is the protection of a fundamental human right, the right to dignity and a decent life." Honorable Chairperson, the South African economy was traditionally driven by the mining and agriculture, as well as the import substitution, all of which were controlled by the white settler colonial population, to the exclusion of the majority of the country's black population. The democratic breakthrough of 1994 ensured political freedom for the majority, but economic freedom has remained an elusive goal 30 years in democracy of South Africa. We are still dealing with historic challenges inherited through apartheid colonialism and have been trying. I warn you not to do that with me again.
Honorable,
I'm pleading for you
Honorable
not to do that
member,
with me
can
again.
you please take your seat? Once again, Honorable Badenhorst, this is the second warning. I'm referring you to Rule 68 as well. I've referred you earlier on to the rule, to Rule 51 that says you can't converse aloud. You are not allowed to disrupt and interrupt the speaker on the platform. This is the second time I'm giving you this warning. Please allow speakers to do their work. Over to you, Honorable Legwase.
Point of order, Chair.
On which rule are you rising on?
On the principle, Chair.
Can you sit down?
The rule says
Can
I
you
rise on the
proceed,
principle.
honorable member? Can you please sit down?
The rule says I can rise on the principle.
Can you please take your seat, honorable Badenhorst?
You're
Please,
inconsistent in your rulings, Chair.
thank you. You can take your...
Motswana o rile le o
platform.
jwale sa le metsi, ga re tla go tsaya maikarabelo a maitseo a bangwe. We are still dealing with historic challenges inherited through apartheid colonialism and have been trying through various programs to correct the historical injustice of the past. These are challenges of poverty, inequality, unemployment, and historic economic exclusion that persists. Re santse re sa seke motho, re seka molato. As we know, unemployment is not just a number. It is a result of persistent low levels of economic growth for consecutive years. It is a defining factor in the quality of life for millions of our people. It breeds disillusionment, exacerbates issues like crime, substance abuse, and mental health challenges, thereby enforcing the cycle of poverty. Honorable President, if we are genuinely to address these issues, we must accelerate our economic interventions with purpose and unity. We need to expand public employment opportunities targeting youth not in employment, education and training, and those that are above the age of 35. They must be included in the presidential employment initiatives like your SANDF, National Youth Services, Young Women in Defense Industry Programs, EPW, and many other employment initiatives and skills. Post the COVID-19 pandemic, the country faced a drastic rise in cost of living, which placed further financial pressure on the income in the middle class and the working class and the poor families. The high cost of living has left the majority of families in the country in serious debt. According to Stats SA, approximately half of the adult population is living below the upper bound poverty line. This translates into over 30.4 million South Africans living in poverty. In 2021, above 2.1 million, which makes 11.6% of South African households, experienced poverty-induced hunger. We must intensify poverty eradication initiatives so that we may meet NDP and UN Sustainable Development Goals. The government of the African National Congress has, during previous terms, utilized the budget as an important instrument for transformation. 60% of the budget was directed at social wage through social grants, non-fee paying schools, public health, and government employment skills such as EPWP. However, while these initiatives alleviate poverty, they do not move the masses of our people from economy of poverty, but to an economy of affluence. Honorable President, we must give meaningful effect to the statement in the Freedom Charter that says, the land shall be shared amongst those who work it. One of the most critical interventions of the government need to intensify is the acceleration of land reform program. Land ownership remains central, not only to economy empowerment, but also to social equity and stability of our country. For generations, land ownership has been skewed, denying the majority of Africans the ability to derive economic benefits and income from the vital resource. We must engage in meaningful dialogue to ensure that land reform is not only about distribution, but also about sustainable agricultural practices, job creation, and enhancing food security. We do acknowledge there has been progress in land reform. However, more needs to be done in this regard. The agricultural sector has grown faster than national economy at 4.2%, and unemployment has increased in primary agriculture by 6% yearly to 941,000 in the first quarter of 2024, a 2% increase from the last quarter of 2023. This means that it is critical to accelerate land reform to ensure that small and medium-scale black farmers are established to ensure food security and reduce our dependence on dollar-based imports. The price of major input costs such as electricity, water, fertilizer, and logistics costs must be reduced to make a sector competitive. Agro-processing in the different provinces and industrial parks must be intensified. Honorable President, the ANC-led government of national unity must prioritize the implementation of our sectoral plans in automotive, agricultural, and textile industries. Those hold the potential to propel us towards a path advanced industrialization. By fostering partnership across public and private sectors, we can catalyze innovation, create jobs, and enhance the productivity of our industries. We must align these plans with our broader economic strategies, including initiatives like African Continental Free Trade Area and BRICS Plus, to leverage communities presented by economic integration across Africa continent and beyond. The conflict between Russia and Ukraine has had a negative impact on many countries, especially in the African continent, as a result in the increase of the price of wheat, sunflower, and fertilizer. South Africa must continue to work within the international multilateral governance system to help resolve this conflict as a price escalation of wheat product affecting the poorest of the poor. Honorable Chairperson and Mr. President, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of the primary sector of our economy, encompassing mining and agriculture. The mining sector does not beneficiate domestic minerals, but rather export minerals from beneficiation into higher value products outside the country, which means that tax benefit resides outside the country and not in the country. However, with the right investments in exploration and sustainability, is poised to rejuvenate the benefit of South Africa. Equally so, the agricultural sector, which employs millions of South Africans, must be mobilized, and it must be done through technology, financial support, and enhanced marketing access to create opportunities and increase productivity. Chairperson and honorable members, even though we are not out of the woods yet, we must congratulate Minister Ramaphosa for dealing with the challenge of load shedding. However, the price of electricity has become extremely high, and this is hitting hard on our people. The increase of price of electricity contributes to the high cost of living and is removing dispensable and disposable income from the working class and the poor households. We call on NERSA. I heard most of the members that came before me, they've called on NERSA also to make sure that it considers the plight of the poor when they make decisions about the tariff increases. We look forward for the future. We cannot ignore the potential of green economy. Investments in renewable energy will not address our energy crisis, but also help to build a domestic productive capability and capacity that is sustainable. Transitioning to clean energy sources can create thousands of jobs and encourage new industries to flourish, benefiting both our economy and the environment. We must encourage partnerships with the private sector to derive investments in renewables and explore opportunities for innovation that could position South Africa as the leader in green technology. Honorable Chairperson, while there are several challenges we need to deal with, there has equally been progress in accelerating infrastructure development in rail, road and bridges. Investing in infrastructure, especially energy infrastructure, road and railway, is critical to inclusion or the inclusive economic growth. As I conclude, Honorable Chairperson, Mr. President, while the road ahead might have its challenge, it is also filled with opportunities. We stand at a crossroads. The choices we make today will definitely define the socio-economic landscape of our nation for generations to come. Let us commit ourselves to accelerating these economic interventions, not only in isolation, but as a united front, actively working to dismantle the barriers of inequality and unemployment that breeds poverty. Together in the government of national unity, let us strive to build an economy that is inclusive, sustainable, and prosperous for every South African. We dare not to fail our people who instructed us to work together to better their lives. Ke a leboha.
Thank you very much, Honorable Lekhwase. I'm now moving on to MEC of Northern Cape for Local Government, Honorable Fass.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair. Warm greetings to the President of the Republic, President Ramaphosa, and all the honorable members, the people of South Africa, and most especially the resilient and proud residents of the Northern Cape Province. It is a privilege to deliver a message from a land of endless horizons and immense potential, a place that, despite its challenges, stands ready to shine as a beacon of hope and opportunity for South Africa. The Northern Cape may be the smallest province by population, with just 1.4 million people, but let us not mistake size for insignificance. We hold the largest landmass in the country, a canvas of opportunity ready to be painted with progress and prosperity. Yet, our low population density and unique challenges create hurdles in equity share allocations, making it difficult to address poverty and unemployment effectively. House Chair, the unemployment rate, as revealed by Stats SA, is deeply concerning. At 28.3% overall, it disproportionately affects women at 36.2% and our youth at an alarming 46.1%. Poverty casts long shadow over our province, affecting 31% of adults and 35% of young people. And these are not just numbers. They are our mothers, fathers, sons and daughters striving for a better tomorrow. And yet, amidst these challenges, we find opportunities to transform lives. Our Human Development Index has risen to 0.65%, reflecting progress, resilience, and the unyielding spirit of the Northern Cape. Our economy rests on pillars of strength, mining, diamonds, manganese, and iron ore underpinning our growth. Agriculture, thriving along the lifeblood of the Orange and the Vaal River. Tourism, a growing sector that connects us with the world, fueled by partnership with the Northern Cape Tourism Authority, Sun Parks, and the global significant SKA in Carnarvon. But this is only the beginning. Catalytic projects are reshaping the landscape of the Northern Cape Province, and I will mention a few honorable members. House Chair, the global trend towards sustainable development provides the Northern Cape within the Western SADC corridor with an enhanced position to contribute to the local and national gross domestic product. The Northern Cape in the past 5 years has absolutely excelled at growing the provincial economy and will continue to do so at an even more enhanced rate. Key primary resources in terms of mining and agriculture produce of the Northern Cape has left our borders for more than a century in bulk format with limited to no beneficiation. Along the resource and population nodes, key clusters was identified that aggregate the natural resources, activities, and provide for the primary upstream and downstream opportunities. In addition, as the global energy transition had its advent, and there is since 2015 a focused effort to transition the globe to a zero-emission state ever since the Industrial Revolution more than 250 years ago. This strengthened the Northern Cape position even more, and the Sixth administration laid a solid foundation. Wide open spaces, some of the best solar radiation, and wind in the SADC region, combined with the traditional iron, manganese, and then the latest new era critical and industrial mineral places the Northern Cape on an enhanced growth trajectory. The investment that extend from Katu Industrial Park in the Gamagara mining corridor, the Uppington Industrial Park focusing on logistics, agricultural, and energy generation combined with the Namakwa SEZ in Aggeneys with mineral beneficiation, logistics and agriculture, and in Boegoebaai Deep Port. Harbour and the Energy Special Economic Zone provide for a stable and enhanced growth trajectory for the Northern Cape into the future. Key milestones has been achieved and enables the critical next steps that we as the 7th administration will enable. We achieved the first ever special economic zone status for the Northern Cape with multi-nodal capacity. The anchor investor Vedanta is advancing well, and as a government we are investing in securing bulk water and energy to the SEZ and to equip the SEZ with inner boundary infrastructure. And this will see water, energy, roads, top structure, security, to mention as a few. The planning phase is underway, and the provincial government with Infrastructure South Africa is appointing specialized service providers to assist with the planning and funding models. In addition, is parallel studies underway to assess and provide for skills and enterprise opportunities associated with this investment. And this will enable the development of the municipal land towards the eastern side of the park, earmarked for black industrial development. House Chair, one of the key strategic breakthroughs for the province post the Renewable Energy Independent Power Producer Program is the advent of the global energy transition, with green hydrogen being identified as the resolve for the 30% of an economy's hard to abide sectors. The Northern Cape has taken the lead. The Northern Cape Green Hydrogen Master Plan is a clear roadmap to produce green hydrogen for local consumption, supplement the local electricity grid, and aggregate bulk volume for export, has set the province on a new growth trajectory. Anchor projects like Sasol, Boegoebaai, 5 gigawatt electrolyzer capacity Prieska Power Reserve, Mpumalanga, Taibos projects by Entertrack has unlocked research to prove the viability of business cases. This has proven the Northern Cape to be in the top global ranking to produce green hydrogen competitively. Private sector and government have spent millions of rand to de-risk the project to date, and real-time final designs and investment can now be initiated. Parallel to this, we are developing skills and creating awareness of these social projects, and the infrastructure assessment has been initiated and will rapidly increase. House Chair, there is a keen interest from global oil and gas giants to explore gas along the Northern Cape coastline that will further grow the local and national GDP within the global just energy window. The Boegoebaai Deep Port Harbour is advancing. The provincial government has spent own fiscal resources to confirm viability and the technical requirements of the port. Transnet has subsequently come on board, and the province and the SOEs is working side by side to secure the funds and government milestones to transition to the next phase of the projects: land sovereignty, design and construction. A close partnership exists with the landowners, the Richtersveld Community Association and the regional communities to ensure this is a legacy project benefiting our local community. Human settlement, prison and infrastructure planning is key next steps. As a Northern Cape Exco, we are also actively involved in making sure we benchmark the harbour and to enable the Transnet team with options to advance the procurement process of the port as per recent visits to key ports in South Africa. In addition, we continue the planning and work is underway with Eskom, the National Transmission Company, and the Presidential Climate Commission to enable the Northern Cape electricity grid to develop more renewable energy projects and to enable the green hydrogen sectors who have 60% of their inputs being renewable energy. The Fire Improved 2025-2030 Transmission Development Plan.
Can you please wind up, Honorable MEC? Your time is up. Thank you very much. Honorable members, I now take this opportunity and invite the Premier of Mpumalanga, our Premier, Honorable Ndlovu.
Don't you want this one back? He says he wants to go back.
Honorable Premier, the current chairperson of the NCOP, thanks for giving me this opportunity to participate in this important debate. Greetings to President Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa, Deputy chairperson of the NCOP, chief whip, all premiers present here, MEC, special delegate, SALGA president, all members of the NCOP, I want to greet you all in the name of fighting poverty. When we were invited here, I thought that we are going to concentrate on poverty. But I realized later, when I was sitting there, when others wanted to remind us about elections, that people did not vote for the government of national unity. Indeed, we know that the ANC contested elections and we won with a plurality majority. So people should stop to inflate their own sense of self that they're a government in waiting. They'll wait up until the crack of the doom. Some of the problems that we're having today in South Africa, we don't want to remind people that these problems were created by some of your leaders. Poverty is the thief of dreams. Poverty can turn people into scavengers, beggars, and thieves. It causes stress, which can trigger violence. In South Africa, as in other societies, poverty increases the frequency and severity of domestic violence. I fully agree with President Mandela when he said, as long as poverty, injustice, and gross inequality persist in our world, none of us can truly rest. I accept the call from the Honorable President CR that we should dedicate our efforts towards reducing poverty and tackling the high cost of living. Statistics indicate that in Mpumalanga, the poverty rate currently stands at 51.2%, which is a significant improvement from 64.3% in 1996. Mpumalanga's 2030 targets are aligned to NDP targets, economic growth of more than 5% per annum, unemployment rate of 6%, poverty rate of 0%, improve income inequality, improve from 7.7% to 10% and more of income of the poorest 40% of household, have a Gini coefficient of less than 0.6. We have been hard at work. We were not slumbering. And wake up today for a debate here. Government is playing a crucial role in assisting the poor and fighting poverty. 1.64 million people receive social assistance grants in Mpumalanga province, of which 75% are child support grants. We all know that grants are a short-term intervention. We committed to creating 100,000 new, decent and sustainable jobs every year up to 2030 to come closer to the envisaged 6% unemployment rate and reduce poverty significantly. Mpumalanga's 36.2% unemployment rate contributes to our high poverty rate. Mpumalanga provincial government has developed various strategies and plans to drive accelerated inclusive economic growth, job creation, as well as increase access to relevant training and education. We have signed partnership agreement with TVET colleges and working towards finalizing collaboration with SETAs and universities to skill and reskill our youth to participate in the economy. This will subsequently lead to the elimination of poverty in the province. Notable plans have been developed, such as the Mpumalanga Economic Growth and Development Path, SME Strategy, Tourism and Development Plan, Trade and Investment Strategies, Partial Development Plan, Infrastructure Master Plan, catalytic projects of the Mpumalanga Economic and Reconstructive and Recovery Plan. Our department and public entities must ensure that we implement all these plans to address the triple challenges in our province. The Mpumalanga Industrial Development Plan develops an integrated and diversified industrial base by leveraging existing industrial centers of competence, including mining, agriculture and forestry, agri-processing, metals manufacturing, and petrochemicals. The Premier's Youth Development Fund has empowered 182 youth-owned businesses at a cost of 249 million in different sectors such as manufacturing, mining, tourism, ICT, retail, transport, and logistics. The allocation of budget is biased in favor of businesses that are owned by youth, women, and people with disabilities. We are now operationalizing the Mpumalanga International Fresh Produce Market, which will stimulate rapid, inclusive economic growth in the agriculture sector and create more decent jobs at both the farm and market level. The market will create 96,400 permanent and seasonal jobs at a farm level. Mpumalanga farmers will utilize it to trade their produce to local and international markets. The market will also assist to revitalize agricultural production of the 1.7 million hectares of the land that has been transferred to our people. Will establish 4 food market squares in each of the 400 wards in the province, bringing the market closer to the people and creating 1,600 small, medium, and micro enterprises to operate within the food market sector. We are diversifying our tourism in Mpumalanga. We have sanctioned 2 feasibility studies on the creation of waves and installation of cable cars in Maripskop Mountain, which has congruent features to Table Mountain. Mpumalanga is in the process of
Honorable
finalizing.
Premier, I'm afraid your time is up.
Poverty is the worst form of abuse. We have to fight
Honorable
to end
Premier,
it.
please respect the House. Now I can see you had a lot to share with the House. We'll allocate you special time as well to come back. We are now moving to the next speaker, Honorable Badenhorst. Oh, sorry, just a second. You know, Honorable Badenhorst, can you please take your seat?
But you called me to the chair.
No, can you please take your seat? Now, when your premier speaks, you tend to be confused. So, hence my apology. The next speaker is actually our MEC of Education from Free State. Can you please take the podium, madam? Order, honorable members. Honorable Mabuya, the time is yours.
Is it okay? Thank you, Honorable Chair of the NCOP, His Excellency President Ramaphosa, premiers and delegations from provinces, honorable members of the NCOP, members of the Executive Councils, fellow South Africans, greetings to all of you. Honorable Chair, we feel particularly honored to be part of this August gathering on behalf of the government of our beautiful province. On the occasion of an annual address of His Excellency, President Ramaphosa, under the theme, dedicating our efforts towards reducing poverty and tackling the high cost of living. This debate shall be extraordinarily futile unless we locate the history of poverty and inequalities in South Africa. The country comes from a colonial and apartheid past, which excluded all categories of Black people from any meaningful participation in the economy of our country. Perhaps we must borrow from meditations of former President Thabo Mbeki to elucidate this point. He said, I quote, "We have come from a rather desperate situation over 300 years of colonialism and apartheid, and those centuries produced a major disaster for South Africa. So we are starting from a very low base, one characterized by poverty among many millions of people. Therefore, the majority of the population has conditions of underdevelopment, whether it's underdevelopment in terms of housing, roads, access to electricity, telephones, or education," close quote. The adoption of our Constitution in 1996 created a basis for progressive policies which were and are still meant to transform our society in profound and fundamental ways. In its preamble, the Constitution clearly states that it aims to heal the divisions of the past and establish a society based on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights, and also to improve the quality of life of all citizens and free the potential of each person. Our daily actions in government must be understood within the context of a particular pursuit for these constitutional ideals. Honorable Chair, to tackle and eradicate poverty, we must ensure that we stabilize our economy, provide basic needs, provide social safety, develop human resource, and create jobs. In this regard, allow me the opportunity to briefly reflect on our efforts as a Free State province in contributing towards inclusive growth, reducing both poverty and high cost of living. We are a province that sits at the very heart of our country. Our borders touch Gauteng, Northwest, Northern Cape, Mpumalanga, KwaZulu-Natal, and the Eastern Cape, as well as the Kingdom of Lesotho. This not only defines our location on the map, but also positions us as a hub of untapped economic potential and boundless opportunities. Our province has made a considerable investment in the education of our citizens with a focus on young people. It is unsurprising that we have experienced an increase in the grade 12 pass rate from 87.4% to 89%, with bachelor passes increasing rapidly from 33% to 44.7% over the past decade. To lift the burden of poverty on disadvantaged households, the following programs are in place. Our school nutrition program is feeding 83% of learners, including breakfast, across many schools in the province. To leverage on economies of scale, we intend to centralize the NSNP to expand the program to accommodate learners from poor households in quintile 4 and 5 schools. In this regard, the modality will be informed by a balance of evidence. Furthermore, as an agricultural province, we will integrate the local subsistence, commercial, and domestic crop growers to create a bigger pool of local suppliers of perishable goods. We have started to accelerate the implementation of food gardens in our schools and localities to promote food security and integrate agricultural produce into our school nutrition program. Targeting all rural learners that travel more than 5 kilometers, the province continues to transport 9,188 learners daily, covering 318 routes. Our hostel program continues to benefit 7,191 learners, mainly from rural and farming communities, ensuring that they have access to a conducive environment to quality teaching and learning. We are implementing the Presidential Youth Employment Initiative as a means to address youth unemployment. Since 2019, we have created 282,907 work opportunities against a 5-year target of 260,000 work opportunities through the expanded public works program. In the past 2 financial years alone, we have already started to have an impact on various sectors, including education, health, public works, creating 19,257 job opportunities. Mr. President, we intend to diversify our economy's dependence on primary sectors, such as mining and agriculture, to include energy, agro-processing, manufacturing, green economy, and tourism, amongst others. We have launched programs specifically targeted at driving youth entrepreneurship to provide youth-owned startups with financial and non-financial support. More than 30 SMMEs in logistics, agro-processing, tourism, ICT, wholesale, and automotive sectors have been supported financially by the provincial government. We will be launching youth development program to attract 1,000 unemployed youth for training in artisan trades, landscaping, hygiene, and cleaning, as well as security services. We are happy with the progress made by the Botshabelo Digital Hub, which is currently training youth on digital skills. This will undoubtedly go a long way in integrating young people into the mainstream economy. We have launched several skills development initiatives, including automotive trades training in partnership with Mersita, benefiting 200 individuals over 3 years, and a program with Food BevSita, supporting 300 participants in the food and beverage sector. In September 2024 alone, we supported over 53 enterprises, providing them with resources to enhance and sustain their operations. This we undertook in collaboration with the National Department of Small Business Development. We are working with the Independent Development Corporation, IDC, to institute a funding program worth 30 million to support SMMEs within the energy and manufacturing sectors. In this regard, a draft SLA has been compiled and awaiting inputs from IDC. We are working with speed to establish 2 renewable energy plants in Lejwele-Puzwa and Fezile-Dabi districts, generating a total of 1,350 megawatts from solar and wind. This includes renewable energy facility between Ventersburg, Senekal, Stainsrest across 30,000 hectares of land, with the potential to generate 700 megawatts of winds and 300 megawatts of solar energy. We are working with Gauteng towards the development of the Vaal City region, which will incorporate Metsimaholo and Mfuleni municipality. This work will include the establishment of the Vaal River SEZ. Furthermore, we will be working together with Gauteng and KZN provinces in the development of the N3 development corridor, which will include the creation of the Harrismith Logistics Hub. Our administration is working harder to transform the Free State into a logistical hub to facilitate the movement of goods and goods cheaper and faster. To this end, we have turned the Free State into a construction site through a number of projects, and I will not even go into them. But we just want to indicate that
Honorable MEC,
currently,
I'm afraid your time is up. Thank you very
oh my
much.
God.
I take this opportunity Thank you very much, Honorable MEC. I now take this opportunity, I invite Honorable Badenhorst to take the podium.
Sure this time. Mr. President, welcome back in the House. Nice to have you here. Honourable members, fellow South Africans. The very foundation of effective governance lies in understanding the needs of the people we serve. Census data, as the backbone of policy making, holds profound implications for poverty alleviation and addressing the rising costs of living. Accurate census data ensures fair and equitable resource allocation. Misestimations result in dire consequences, such as underserved clinics, overcrowded schools, and poorly planned infrastructure, especially in rapidly growing urban areas. A flawed census hinders the delivery of basic services like healthcare, water, and electricity to those in need, exacerbating inequality. Moreover, this data underpins the National Treasury's budgetary frameworks. Mr. President, without it, social grants, housing initiatives, and transportation projects risk being misdirected or underfunded. Provinces with inflated counts may unjustly receive resources, leaving densely populated and vulnerable regions under-resourced. The fight against poverty requires nuanced and localized approaches, Mr. President. Census data identifies high unemployment areas, informing job creation strategies and economic policies. Errors, such as those in the 2022 census, jeopardize these efforts. Undercounts lead to underserved populations, while overcounts strain the budgets and inefficiencies. Additionally, the rising cost of living stems from resource mismanagement. Accurate data enables strategic planning for infrastructure like roads, housing, utilities, reducing the burden on families and fostering sustainable growth. Undermining this process with unreliable figures only worsens service delivery and household expenses. Mr. President, herewith some realities that will make a few $1,000s in a couch on a private game farm pale into insignificance. The 2022 census conducted by Stats SA counted only 69% of the population, far below the international standard of 95%, leaving a significant gap. Approximately 43 million people were counted in 2022 census, but this figure is considered biased and incomplete due to, amongst others, significant logistical challenges and insufficient staff training. For the 2022 census, income, employment, mortality, and fertility data was not made publicly available, despite the fact that the census cost South Africans 2.3 billion rand in taxpayers' money. With 4.77 million residents, Cape Town is now very nearly the largest city in South Africa, according to the census, while Johannesburg has 4.8 million people. Whilst Cape Town has undoubtedly expanded and experienced significant migration, there is still a significant disparity between Cape Town's 3.7 million residents and Johannesburg's 4.4 million residents in the previous census. Per projection, Census 2022 implies that Johannesburg is now 20% smaller. Mr. President, even your RET headache persons in Gauteng is lamenting the fact that the census data is incorrect. Finance MNC Lebogang Maile said Treasury is saying that the population figures were incorrect. Maile said that the province received a letter from Treasury saying that its population size has been overstated. As a result, National Treasury, and I'm quoting, is taking an additional 6 billion rand away from our budget. So we have lost it. Our budget is minus that amount in the next 5 years, unquote. A direct result of the 2022 census overstating the province's population. In both 2001 and 2011, funding for the census equaled about 0.25% of the national budget. In 2022, the figure has dropped to 0.18%. How can we then, Mr. President, dedicate our efforts towards reducing poverty and tackling the high cost of living if the very figures we rely on to make sure provinces and local municipalities get the equitable share is at best based on a 2.3 billion rand thumbsuck? Chief Whip Mpumalanga, nice to see you today. Might I just remind you that it's because of the ANC's policy failures that the voters of South Africa has forced the GNU upon you. Thank heavens there are some good DA ministers that keep the wheels going there. Your speech actually took us from Marxism to capitalism. It's as confusing as this chameleon in a smarty box. The guy who writes your speeches must actually be fired. Get a new person. It's not working. Premier Mabuyane, it seems that the DA-run Western Cape does more for the Eastern Cape residents than what the actual Eastern Cape is doing themselves.
Point of order, Chair.
Can you please take your seat, Honorable Badenhorst? Honorable Father, Honorable Farmer, I always Honorable Father. Honorable Farmer, on what rule are you standing on?
Again, Chairperson, I stand on Rule 58. The Speaker must address the Chair. Thank you, Chair.
The order is sustained. Please, Honorable Badenhorst, address the House through the Chairperson. You may proceed.
I tend to disagree in your ruling, Honourable Chair, because we are having a debate, so I am allowed to address the persons in the debate. But having said that, let's move on, otherwise I'm losing too much time here. Honourable President, Tanswalo sends her regards. She's now running a DA branch somewhere in the southern suburbs. And it's very nice to have you in the House, because for a change, we'll have the Chair sitting through a full session instead of leaving it to the House Chairs and the Deputy Chair every time. Thank you very much.
We are now moving to Honorable Modise.
Honorable Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, His Excellency President Ramaphosa, Honorable Deputy Chair and the Chief Whip of National Council of Provinces, Honorable members, Honorable Premiers and members of Executive Council, Honorable Speaker of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, President of SALGA, the delegation from the Molokome family, people of South Africa. Chairperson, the African National Congress has chosen a path of renewal and rebuilding our country. And our President, His Excellency Mr. Ramaphosa, has issued a clarion call to all South Africans to join us on this path as we take steps to strengthen the state capability and building partnership with social partners to improve basic service provision, ensuring the safety and security of South Africans. As we embark on the path of renewal and rebuilding our beloved country, we're also embarking on the path to build an ethical, capable, and developmental state. President Ramaphosa characterized ethical, capable, and developmental state as possessing, and I quote, a public service that is professional and competent. It needs people with skills, experience, foresight, integrity, who must act in the best interest of the people. They must be able to resolve conflict, forge partnership, and build dynamic institutions that go beyond meeting their basic mandates, close quote. The African National Congress was the first to acknowledge the severe impact of state capture, fraud and corruption, which almost hollowed out our democracy, destroyed our public institutions, and undermined our people's confidence in the rule of law. The Constitution of the Republic mandates a high standard of professional ethics in our public sector, and it demands that democratic values and principles, along with standards for professional ethics, govern our public administration. This is why the public sector and its entities are required to establish an audit and risk committee, which plays a crucial role in governance,
by ensuring accountability, building public confidence, supporting oversight, providing important insights about government policy and programs, and reducing corruption in the public sector. However, some of the public sector audit and risk committee established to play a crucial role in governance nearly succumbed to the state capture. President Ramaphosa has referred some recommendation from the State Capture Commission's report to professional bodies like South African Institute of Chartered Accountants and the Independent Regulatory Board of Auditors, whose members the report identified as enablers and perpetrators of state capture. Allegations surfaced that these practitioners significantly contributed to the manifestation of corruption in various institutions. The African National Congress applauds the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants for having acted swiftly against one of its members, the former SA technical chairperson and a one-time member of the SA board, Yake Kwinana. The South African Institute of Chartered Accountants has charged Ms. Kwinana and found her guilty of 13 of the 14 charges against her. The South African Institute of Chartered Accountants immediately stripped her of her membership, barred her from practicing as a chartered accountant, and fined her 6.1 million. Ms. Kwinana appeared at the Palm Ridge Specialized Commercial Crime Court on Tuesday, 26 November 2024, to face fraud charges, and the court granted a 20,000 bail. This is a clear demonstration that the government is committed to rooting out fraud and corruption in the public sector. The ANC welcomes the measures outlined by the Deputy President, Mr. Paul Mashatile, to strengthen local governance through ensuring technical capacity, but also progress in strengthening the SOE governance. The Deputy President has instructed the Public Service Commission and the National School of Government to assess the capacity of chief financial officers across the 3 spheres of government to initiate programs aimed at enhancing the financial management capabilities. The National Treasury, in collaboration with the Department of Public Services and Administration and the National School of Government, has already implemented a capacity development strategy to address financial management capacity challenges in the private sector and the public sector. We thank the administration and the 7th Parliament for reinstating the National State Enterprise Bill that expired in the 6th Parliament. The National State Enterprise Bill 2024 seeks to formulate a plan for national state enterprises. The bill will be pivotal in future administration of South African state-owned enterprises. The centralized approach will protect state-owned firms from undue influence and interventions, since the holding company's board will maintain independence over these enterprises and ensuring monitoring without any influence. Honorable members, the African National Congress is committed to the path of renewal and rebuilding our public service to serve our people. Parliament is considering a number of bills, including the Public Service Commission Bill, the Public Administration Management Amended Bill, and the Municipal Structures Amendment Bill to strengthen professionalization of the public services. Already in 2022, President Ramaphosa's cabinet had approved the national framework for the professionalization of public service to guide public service reform. The framework ensures the recruitment and selection of competent public servants, subjecting them not only to competency-based assessment, but also regular performance management systems once appointed. As the ANC, we fully support the Public Service Commission Bill as it's part of our effort to strengthen the state capacity, improve basic service provision, and ensure the safety of our communities. The bill also seeks to broaden the Public Service Commission jurisdiction to include local municipalities and state-owned entities. Once the bill is approved, it will empower the Public Service Commission to investigate instances of nepotism and malfeasance, not only in the national and provincial government, but also in the local municipality and SOEs. The ANC strongly urges this Parliament to expedite the consideration of the Municipal Structures Amendment Bill, as we cannot tolerate the dysfunctionality of our local municipalities due to the instability of coalition governments. The bill outlines a framework for managing coalition agreements with local governments, guarantee the provision of basic services to communities as outlined in our Constitution. Chairperson of the House, on June 2nd, 1976, in the Rand Mail newspaper, Professor Chris Barnard writes, and I quote, "Put a rope around a man's neck, tie the knot next to his ear, fasten his wrist behind his back, and drop him in the distance, just less than 2 meters. If you have not botched it by miscalculating the length of the drop or the strength of the rope, you'll achieve several things at once. The man's spinal cord will rupture at the point where it enters the skull. The electrochemical discharge will send his limbs falling in the cortex dense. Eyes and tongue will start from the facial under the assault of the rope, and his bowels and bladder may simultaneously void themselves to swell the legs and drip onto the floor. Unless, of course, you are an efficient hangman who has thoughtfully fitted your subject with a nappy or a rubber pants. It may be indeed quick, we don't know, as none has survived to vouch for it. We make assumption that the dance macro is but a reflection of disconnected nervous system, that the protruding eyes and tongue and the contact feature are mere reaction to the pressure of the corded battery, that the massive trauma of the neck tissue and spinal columns does not register in that area of human psyche where Harrow dwells. That is certainly far from clean is offensively evident to those entrusted with the removal of the body from obscene dangling at the rope's end, or the doctors charged with checking for a heartbeat. If the pulse is still there, and often is, justice is mercilessly pursued. The body remains hanging, and the medical officer may wait another 10 minutes before the final test shows that the law has been served, close quote. All of these happened at the gallows of the infamous Pretoria prison, when prisoners took their last 52 steps of their lives from prison cells to the gallows. Chairperson, implementing measures to strengthen law enforcement agencies is crucial as we rebuild and strengthen the public sector through various legislative interventions. President Ramaphosa has impressively moved quickly to implement recommendations of the State Capture Commission report in relation to building the capacity of the justice system in the country. As the African National Congress, we applaud President Ramaphosa's efforts to establish an agile and resilient investigative directorate, fully equipped with both human resource and modern technologies. Over the past few months, the SIU has been extensively crisscrossing the country, carrying out search and seizures in nearly all three spheres of the government, in line with President Ramaphosa's signed proclamation. As the African National Congress, we alone in this August House had faith and confidence that the Generation Operational Recovery Plan will result in improved electricity supply for both domestic and commercial use, ultimately ensuring that our economy functions better. And we were not wrong. We anticipate that the Generation Operational Recovery Plan will contribute to a potential of 2% growth in our country's economy. Honorable Chairperson, as the African National Congress, we welcome Minister Godongwa's announcement that his department is developing a fuel price intervention plan. This plan aims to reduce cost of petrol and consequently alleviate the high cost of living that have adversely affected the working class and the poor. And in conclusion, Chairperson, we said this before and we are saying it again. We're not going to allow clowning in this house. Remember that when you put a clown in a palace, the clown does not become a king, but the palace becomes a circus. Honorable Badenhorst needs to read a lot of political, micro and macroeconomic material for him to understand the epoch that we are in. Grandstanding here when the president is around is not going to help him. In fact, it will reduce him to non-entity. We are watching and listening to you very carefully. If you speak from the point of privilege, Chair, you will most definitely sound like Honorable Boshoff, who chose to ignore that in the past 30 years, the rule of law applies to everyone, whereas in the 400 years of minority rule, anything and everyone who was seen to threaten the status quo was hanged or murdered by the regime of terror. She will not speak about the murders visited on poor black and colored farm workers by their racist white bosses, because simply to them, they do not exist and they are not human beings. Honorable Billy, unfortunately, your premier has left. But if ungrateful as a person, you'll be a perfect fit. You are sitting here on the ticket of KwaZulu-Natal provincial legislature, yet you seem to be very ashamed of it. You are trying very, very hard to please your handlers. And the sooner you decide to be yourself, the sooner your potential will shine. To the coming together of the wounded, the MKP, remember, people who live in glass houses should never throw stones. I see that the presence of the president today overwhelmed you to a point that you forgot to greet President Zuma, like you always do. You take this podium and speak of corruption when you are led by the most corrupt individual this country has ever seen. When you have an opportunity to have a discussion with him, ask him about Aurora Empowerment Systems and Kulubusi Zuma. To those who voted for MKP, they did so without the knowledge that it's a resurrection of Zuma's cabal in the likes of Lucky Montana, Brian Molefe, Siabonga Gama, and lately Busimu Kwebani, Jimmy Manyi, and others. They did not know that they will be led by VPS lootist and pickpocketer in the form of Floyd Shibam, who, by the way, has a serious problem with people who lead by appointment as opposed to being elected. Show me anyone within the National High Command of MKP who has any decency, and I will vote for them. Your members are in court today due to the extortion that is taking place in your party, and you come here and you tell us about the corruption. As for the Red Berets, the EFF, again, you forgot to greet your CIC, your one and only, the only man who matters in your life. Instead, you stood here and punched above your weight. Issues of developmental state are far beyond your comprehension. Your politics is of insults and chaos. Maybe we should remind you that in the EFF, Honorable Creek, when you find your voice, you are out. We have been consistent on that message, that once you find your voice, you are out. Very soon, and I'm saying it to you today, mark it, very, very soon, they will be accusing each other about their academic qualifications. You'll come back to me. Ask us, Member Krike, who's leaving now before the conference, and they will tell you. And we'll equally tell you who's going to leave immediately when your national conference is done. Member of the EFF, you should have asked your CIC to sponsor a few points for you to come here and talk, because today you are really out of your depth. Chair, as I sit down, as the ANC, we are like a book. Most of you here see us or see our cover. The minority read only the introduction. Many believe those who criticize us, and few will ever get to know our content, because you already have your preconceived perception about the mighty African National Congress. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Modise. We are now inviting our President, the one and the only, the President of the Republic of South Africa, to come and close this debate.
Madam Chairperson, Premiers and honorable delegates and members who are here present, and ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank everyone who has participated in this debate, and indeed all members here present. By your mere presence, you also have made a huge input in enriching this discussion. It has been enlightening. I found it also very constructive on the foremost challenge facing the people of our country, which is poverty. Now, through this debate, you've not only shown the determination of members of the National Council of Provinces to confront and overcome poverty and inequality in our society. Through the various inputs that were made here, you've demonstrated that there is a deep understanding of where our challenge of poverty and inequality arises from. Yes, as I said earlier, it arises from our past, a past of colonialism and apartheid, through which the people of our country were humiliated, were stripped of the assets that could have given them a better life than what they are enjoying now. Were stripped of the privilege of education, of being able to lead dignified lives. That's where our poverty originates from. Now, it is also showing that you do understand the past and are able to better interpret the present that we're living in. And through this debate, you've also been able to show how we can chart a future. It is when one understands those three: the past, to interpret the current moment, and to be able to then craft a clear way forward. For the most part, the debate has been about solutions. It has been about how we can take meaningful action to address the challenge of poverty and inequality that we face. So it has largely been about the way forward. How do we move forward? Now, I've been heartened to have heard how the speakers from various provinces, either as premiers or MECs, have been able to articulate very, very positively and hopefully about how we can craft that future and the various steps that our provinces are taking to help get us out of this position that we are in. Premier of the Eastern Cape, who has had to rush out, spoke very, very glowingly and powerfully, I would say, about the various interventions that are being made in the Eastern Cape, from building roads, where he said that indeed the Eastern Cape has become a construction site, where roads are being built, where bridges are being built to connect villages that would otherwise not been connected by meaningful infrastructure. And how the Eastern Cape, yes, has even gone beyond what we've always known the Eastern Cape as, the auto capital of our country, which has for many years been manufacturing vehicles that we've been exporting to various countries in the world. But how now it has embraced renewable energy mechanisms, and how the Eastern Cape is now excelling in building wind turbines to a point where the young people who are working in this sector are now being poached to go and work in various countries abroad. There was a time when the skills that we had developed, that our young people had developed in automaking, were also being utilized in countries that, if you like, were the real originators of automaking through various brands like Mercedes-Benz and BMWs, where some of those factories were asking people from the Eastern Cape to be exported to Germany and all that, to go and teach some of the German workers how to make cars. Now we've developed another skill of how wind turbines have now become a center of excellence, where young people are now being poached or sent to various parts of the world because the Eastern Cape is the capital of developing wind turbines and using wind energy for renewable energy. The Premier of KZN has also had to rush out, but speaks very glowingly about how they have raised up to 90 billion rand in new investments, and how KZN has continued to be the artery, the economic artery of our country, through the N3 and through the harbors that we are rebuilding to make sure that our economy keeps pumping. And how the KZN is also beginning to excel in the auto sector. And one just highlights the very many hopeful interventions that are happening in our provinces. In Gauteng, MEC Mamabulo speaks about, as he picks up what the term I use about flywheel, and defines it in the most intellectual way of saying a flywheel is what he told us was. Very educative. But the Gauteng being the heart of our economy, and how our provincial government has embarked and continues to embark on many interventions that continue to drive the economy of our country, but also various projects that they are going to embark upon, infrastructure being also at the heart of it. Premier of Limpopo, talking about how Dr. Ramathuba, they sought to raise something like 80 billion rand in their investment conference, ended up raising 120 billion rand. For what? For various projects that Limpopo is embarking on in a variety of economic sectors. But what they're also beginning to excel on is insourcing, making sure that the in-source services that were always outsourced to the disadvantage in a number of areas of the province. Now they are going to be teaching us many lessons about how we should move back to insourcing, to getting the government to do work, and by so doing to strengthen the capacity of government, of getting government to utilize people that we have in government, to sharpen their own skills and to be able to execute projects. And that is going to enable us to ensure that projects are executed on time and on budget, sharpening the skills that we should have in government. Northwest talks about, the Premier talks about the various projects that they are embarking on, and mentions a number of figures that they are going to be investing in a number of projects, special projects, both infrastructure, as well as ensuring that they support the private sector, the small, medium enterprises. And that demonstrates hopefulness, that demonstrates positivity on how our provinces are looking more and more positively at what the future should hold for the people of our country. The Northern Cape, the renewable energy capital of our country, that has seen hundreds of billions of rands being invested in solar energy, and now embarking on a very bold and futuristic project on hydrogen, and saying that through this hydrogen project, we are going to be a global player, coming from a province that has the smallest population in our country, creating jobs, and not only relying on mining, but relying also on a huge resource that we have, sun, solar energy and hydrogen. And now embarking on another bold and very courageous project, the Bogobai project, which is now attracting a lot of investment and moving towards being bankable, and with investors saying, yes, this Bogobai port, a deep water port, is a project that they can invest in. Premier of Mpumalanga talking about how, as like the tourism capital also of our country, together with KZN, of course, but yes, Western Cape as well, but how they're utilizing tourism to grow the economy of our country and also attracting a lot of investments. Honorable Chairperson, yes, the Free State also talks about how they want to become the logistical hub of our country, where all roads lead to the center of the country, which is the Free State, and how they want to utilize the positioning so effectively as to be able to grow the economy as the logistical hub of the country. But of course, the Free State, the MEC for Education spoke so powerfully about utilizing education, which they are number one at. They've continued to come number one with regard to matric pass rate, and I'm sure they will continue doing that into the future. So all our provinces have all spoken very, very positively about the future that is going to help us to address poverty, to help us also to eradicate inequality and create jobs. Now, this I have found heartening. I found this very, very deeply moving. That yes, we live in an era now where we've got a government of national unity, which has also infused a lot of hope and confidence, not only in the hearts of our people, but also in those that are showing interest in our country from an investment point of view. Wherever I have traveled internationally, I have found and heard how people are now looking at South Africa as the one country that is so exemplary in being able to bring 10 political parties in a government of national unity working so well together. Now, and speaking here as president and being able to lead this government, I cannot be heard and will never be heard saying, the minister from the ANC did this, the minister from this party did this. No. I speak about the government of national unity. And it is this government that is beginning to change things and to change the mood in our country, and definitely demonstrating that we are on a journey. We're on a journey of moving our country forward. And this is also beginning to come through the various surveys that a number of people conduct. We should also understand that a number of the interventions and projects that are underway started in the 6th administration. And for those who would like to say, yes, it's us and so forth, please understand that this has been work that has been underway during the 6th administration, and some of the progress is reaching fruition now. And we should all be proud of the work that is being done by everyone. And yes, all of us in the 7th administration are keeping our eyes on what the people of South Africa voted for. They wanted us to address those 3 priorities that I spoke to. And through these 3 priorities, addressing the economic growth of our country, addressing unemployment, and making sure that we reduce the cost of living and also build a capable state. What this debate has also made clear is that our efforts to end poverty and create jobs rely to a large extent on how the state works. It must be a state that is capable and developmental, and we also need institutions that use public resources prudently and to the greatest effect. So local government must therefore be at the center of these efforts. The President of SALGA, President Stofile, spoke so powerfully about how working together in all 3 spheres of government, we will be able to address the challenges that face our country. Functioning municipalities are therefore vital for the provision of basic services to our people and to eradicate poverty and to address the challenge, yes, of inequality and unemployment, where we need also to create an environment for local economic development. Yes, as Honorable Briet also said, many municipalities are falling short in this respect, threatening further to impoverish poor communities. It is therefore essential that all spheres of government and all public bodies work together, as Honorable Stofile said, as a vital institution of government, that is local government. We need to enhance the governance at local government, and the NCOP plays a central role in this work. Among other things, the NCOP should make sure that national and provincial government provide the necessary support to local government, and it intervenes where appropriate and in line with the constitutional obligation that you have. Now, as the Government of National Unity, we are giving close attention to strengthening local government. This is now one of the areas where the reforms that we are working on at national government level really takes effect. And Premier Ntuli provided a practical example of the work that we are doing in the Presidential eThekwini Working Group, which brings together key role players in the city of eThekwini and the different spheres of government to collectively address the challenges facing the city. It was when I went to eThekwini, when various stakeholders asked to see me, when we decided that we should set up the eThekwini Presidential Working Group. And that is beginning to yield really good positive outcomes, through which we are going to return Durban to being the tourism capital of our nation once again. Now, this working group is showing progress in dealing with the problems like dilapidated and aging infrastructure, water shortages, dwindling tourism numbers, and low business confidence. It was really a joy if Honorable Badenhorst will listen, because he's making noise right next to me here. Now, it was really a joy to listen to hoteliers, big hotel groups saying, we are coming back to Durban. We are going to revive the very well-known hotel groups, the Hilton and many others. We are going to reopen because we can see that, yes, Durban is Now, under reconstruction, it is going to come back to what it was. As Premier Ntuli has noted, this working group demonstrates a great deal of commitment because there are various sectors of society that are working together. And we are hopeful that the eThekwini Working Group will serve as a model for collaborative efforts to other municipalities. I'd like us to begin to give attention to our other 7 metros, particularly 6 metros that are facing challenges. And through this type of working group approach, we will be able to address some of their challenges. In tackling local government challenges, we need to be more deliberately involved in the institution also of promoting key leadership, but in a number of other areas of traditional leadership as well. As the President of SALGA also spoke about, our Constitution sees traditional leadership as an instrument of development and progress, dedicated to improving the lives of the people of our country. And in particular, there needs to be closer cooperation between traditional authorities and local government structures in implementing integrated development plans. I'm not saying this because I'm sitting next to Chief Nonkonyane, who's also a traditional leader. And we are therefore looking forward to strengthening the collaboration between all various institutions that support our democracy. At the beginning of this month, Honorable Chairperson, members of the National Executive, as in Cabinet, as ministers and deputy ministers, we held a meeting in Polokwane with the Limpopo Provincial Executive Council. A week later, we held a meeting with the KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Executive Council. In another week or two, we're going to move to Mpumalanga to meet the Executive Council in Middelburg. Now, these are the beginning of a series of engagements with provincial governments to ensure closer alignment between the priorities and programs of these 2 spheres of government. And in highlighting some of the very positive interventions that our provinces are embarking on, we want to deepen all these and spread them and make sure that national government gives maximum support to our provinces as well as to our local government, so that the intergovernmental approach that we have to strengthening government and strengthening the capacity of the state becomes a reality. Now, through these engagements, we also have an opportunity that provinces are utilizing to raise areas where the support of national government is needed to unlock progress on key developmental issues. And beyond these 4 provinces that we are going to do this year, we will also be able to do the other 5 provinces next year. All these efforts are guided by our approach to the district development model that we have crafted. Work is continuing to entrench the district development model in the work of all spheres of government to improve alignment in planning, budgeting, and implementation. Now, ministers and deputy ministers have recently been appointed as district champions, covering every district and metro in our country. Now, part of their responsibility is to support municipalities in implementing their constitutional responsibilities and improving the lives of our people. The eradication of poverty is an effort that requires the resources, the ingenuity, and the capabilities of all of society. Now, South Africa has a strong and robust civil society with a long tradition of involvement in political, social, and economic change. It is essential that civil society as well, in its various forms, feels that it is an integral part of the work to build an inclusive economy and to reduce poverty and inequality in our country. During our G20 presidency, we will be taking forward an innovation of Brazil's G20 presidency this year, where they convened what they call the G20 Social Summit, which brought together a number of civil society organizations in the world, including some from our country, where 47,000 people participated in various mini summits that were held at social level. And we will be doing so, because this will bring together social and civic formations from across the G20 members to deliberate on issues that affect people in those countries and across the world. So in the end, we will be taking forward our own experience that we have had on the long journey to eradicate, to bring an end to the nightmare of apartheid, but also to get civil society to continue being participants in the transformation of our country. Now, this is who we are as South Africans. Now, the NCOP plays a critical role as an organ of our state that brings together our provinces, that brings together, yes, even our local government representatives to play a role in addressing issues such as poverty, inequality, and yes, unemployment. So, Honorable Chairperson, it's been a real pleasure for me to be in this debate and to hear members of this House speaking so positively, so hopefully about the future that South Africa must embrace. And I was very pleased that even those who may well be parties that are not in the GNU would like to see progress being made on a number of fronts, that even as they don't participate in government, by their mere participation in this House and the mere participation in this debate, they spoke also with a great deal of hope and saying these are things that need to be addressed. So I didn't see this as a complaint session, but as a session where a great deal of hope was being articulated. So I'd like to thank you, Honorable Chair, for allowing me to be in this debate, and I look forward to further debates. The NCOP is certainly a progressive center of a state that we are moving forward to making more capable. And it is composed of very capable people, people who are very articulate, people who are also very intelligent. Thank you very much.
Honorable members, thank you. Thank you. The House is still in session. We'll have a pre-Christmas party celebration just after we've adjourned the House with our President. Accordingly, Honorable President, we want to take this opportunity and thank you and thank our Honorable Premiers, as well as our Honorable MECs, our Honorable Speaker from Gauteng, our Honorable Chief Whip from Northwest, our President of SALGA and the entire executive, Of course, our Honorable Korenhoff for always being with us, our permanent delegates, all our officials as led by the DG. We do have the various media houses in the house. Thank you for capturing this magnificent debate we've had today. And we also want to thank our guests in the gallery for being part of this important debate. I'm being informed that, Honorable President, before you leave, as the tradition of this House, you are requested to join the honorable members who would greatly like to have a group photo with your good self as well as our premiers from various provinces. As we walk, honorable members, let us quickly make our way through towards our stairways in our entrance so that we take this picture with the President. Having said that, the House is adjourned.
Please.